honestly, it's as simple as that. I don't know what to do with my hands.
The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Skyview Campers, Never Summer's innovative take on the tiny home. Designed and built in beautiful Colorado. Check out skyviewcampers.com. Wired Snowboards builds quality snowboards by hand 10 minutes away from my house. Visit wiredsnowboards.com and order one today. Fixed bindings are easy to adjust, long-lasting, high-performance bindings built to have less impact on the environment. Check out fixedbindingco.com. Rip Curl outerwear is designed to search further in the snow, offering strength, durability, and all-around performance. Rip Curl outerwear's got you covered. New Greens, 100% organic, vibrant green juice. Buy yourself some at newgreens.com and use code FNRad at checkout for 20% off. The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, best selection, best prices, Vancouver's premier snowboard shop. The Boardroom ships to anywhere in North America, so go to boardroomshop.com or visit their stores in Vancouver and North Van. Support also comes from Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Cypress Mountain, the Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and our friends at 1910. You can use code FNRad at checkout for 20% off at 1910.com. The Haven's a center for transformational learning located on beautiful Gabriola Island. Plan a visit at haven.ca and use code FNRad at checkout to save 10% off their Come Alive program. TJ Schneider was a pro snowboarder for 12 years, the longest running pro of the original Capita team. His style caught the attention of tastemakers of his era because he rips, or I should say he ripped. TJ quit snowboarding suddenly and disappeared off the radar, basically never to be seen on snow again. Not to worry, TJ landed on his feet and now runs The Shop in Vancouver, a specialty denim and leather clothing spot that attracts customers from all over. On the day we recorded, a guy from Seattle drove all the way up to buy a leather jacket. Here's a story that pulls back the curtain a little on the mysterious enigma that is TJ Schneider.
I think I did a little bit with MacDog, then I did like Love Hate, and then maybe like Whiteout.
Yeah.
And Dwayne and I filmed a little combined part. Basically, I just brought along Dwayne to anything that I was doing.
Rad.
But that video part, I remember like Jason was talking a lot about having like more creative control over who we were as snowboarders. And I remember when that video part came out, I was just like, this doesn't represent me in any way as who I am as a snowboarder. It was, I mean, I don't know if I did an interview about this before, but it was like, I remember saying to people around me, like, that was a representation of what somebody else thought my snowboarding was. Yeah. And that's what created the Snowboard Realms. Was after, I think either the year after, the next year, we did the first Capita movie, which, you know, even though my name's not on it anywhere, but I was like heavily involved in what that video turned out to be. And we didn't want to make like a snowboarding movie or your snowboard porn film. We wanted to make like a film that was like more about who we were as people in snowboarding.
Sick.
And after doing that, I was like, I don't want to film with anybody ever again. Like it just, there was no interest. I was really turned off by it when I filmed with MacDog. Just the way that everybody saw snowboarding and how the way they treated it, it just really turned me off. And that really solidified it, doing our own project and being like, oh, I just want to have like the control over what I'm doing and who I present to the world, I guess.
I've never thought about it before. It's what a great coincidence that I saw those two parts and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Yeah. Because I've also been playing with an idea. It's not my idea, but like Mouse and a few other people, Kevin Kinnear, have mentioned like a snowboard media archive, a digital one, because there are boxes and boxes of like film all over the place that you're not going to be able to play them anymore.
Yeah.
Like if you've got VHS tapes at your house right now, you know, like, fuck, I'm not sure if the VCR is going to work.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got fucking reel-to-reel shit, It's once it's gone, and it's beautiful archival footage of all the shit. My point being, once we started playing with the idea of putting all that stuff digitally online, one of the first things that I thought would be awesome would be to have an interactive space where kids could go and take archival footage and build a perfect Noah Selaznick
build their own edits.
Build their own edits of these people. Build a bear for snowboard videos. You go back and you take all this, because, you know, some of the shit that was done during your era, you know, okay, some of the things that you were doing have evolved into this X Games real snow, you know, like crazy spots, weird urban settings. But a lot from that era has not been matched as far as like airs, how big they were, like the features that were built in, you know, in service of video parts.
It was probably a lot. I think back then it was a lot more dangerous.
Yes.
Just in this, if you look at like the jumps, like the geometry of the jumps were pretty fucking sketchy back then.
Totally.
You know, I think Jeff built a jump at Norquay that shattered like Hardingham's pelvis. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's some incredible shots out of that. But it just, we weren't educated enough to like know what to do to make things safe.
Some of the people that were building the things, their incentive was like, let's get a great shot, or let's get it never been
it was
done.
like I specifically think of that jump that Patterson built. I didn't hit that one. I wasn't around for that, but it was like built for like a background aesthetic. And guys were, you know, 50 feet off the ground into like your traditional knuckle, you know? And so if you came up short, you were fucked. But yeah, scary. Jumps were built more for like a visual aesthetic, not necessarily the safety element of it, you know, which probably changed around like 2008 or 2007, 2008. But that wasn't the norm for a really long time.
So this is, as I'm driving here and I'm watching these parts, I noticed this thing that has been a recurring theme in the show, which is that you don't have control over your life when you're a pro snowboarder. You're not just doing everything that you want to do, right? You might want to go on a trip and you got a trick in your head that you want to try, but then your sponsor sends you on a trip with a couple of people you don't even get along with. And the filmer is focusing on someone else, and you've got like a conflict personally, and now you've and you just went one past that.
I never had that.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, generally as a pro snowboarder, you just went one past that and said, look, man, I filmed for this production that I have nothing to do with. Mm-hmm. They're making a movie. They're putting me in there, you know, partially because my sponsors are paying to make the movie, partially because I shot with these guys, partially because the shots are fucking awesome. But then they're putting the shots together. Where does this fit in their film? Mm-hmm. How does this fit with our soundtrack? Mm-hmm. So you get a song you don't not even identify with, and then your shots are in fucking janky order. Like, that was a thing. With the Defenders of Awesome re-edit, your shots were in way better order.
I don't really remember.
Right, but yeah,
sure.
It was a different, it's the same shots, different part. Like, for example.
Well, it's like anything. It's that DIY ethos of like, if you want something done, I mean, I don't even think that's the ethos, but if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And I think that, and it's something I learned along with this, it's like you can't expect other people to care about your shit as much as you care about it. There you go. And so there's a small, or just a little bit more attention to detail that you'll put in than somebody else. Because again, they're putting it together as a representation of what they think your snowboarding is, and you're putting it together as what you think or what you want your stuff to look like.
Totally.
And that's completely, you know, it's funny because a guy like Jason Brown was so ahead of his time, and he was talking about that in 2002, 2003, and the Snowboard Realm started in 2006, 2007. And that shit didn't catch on until what seems like now, you know, like
it really,
years later.
No one really did what you did.
For years,
no
people
one
were
really
like,
did
you
what you
can't
did.
do this. You like, you can't, this doesn't work. This doesn't make sense. And honestly, that's like one of the reasons why I kind of left snowboarding so abruptly. Like there was a few reasons, but there was a lot of people that I really respected that kind of just consistently told me that what I was doing wasn't acceptable or wasn't allowed. Wow. And it kind of just like, I was just kind of like, oh, well, you know, I respect you, but you guys don't like what I do at all. Even though, cause it's just a little bit different than sort of what the norm was. And it just kind of jaded the whole thing.
When I look at those Capita days, the early Capita days, and there was a Capita, documentary. Makes you guys look like the Beatles during Let It Be.
Yeah, like
everyone's got
minutes,
long hair,
15 minutes and like 15 years and 15 minutes.
Exactly,
or
like
like
facial hair and just like cool as fuck and like breaking new ground with like a combination of artistic.
You have to remember where Jason was as a snowboarder at that time, and I mean everybody that Jason really brought onto that team, or at least that he expressed to me, was he was like, okay, so let's bring it back to like 2002, 2003. There was a very definite style or sort of like a schema of what a pro snowboarder was supposed to be. And the very popular image was JP Solberg. Fucking awesome dude, great snowboarder. But everybody wanted to have that kind of carbon copy of JP Solberg. And Jason really seemed to look at outside of that and was like, I want individuals. He's like, I don't want a carbon copy of this person. I don't want my carbon copy of this person. I don't want to rebuild the Forum 8 because I need to have my Peter line and I need to have my Relay and I want to have my Duffy. You know, he was like, I want to build a team based off individuals who are themselves. And I remember one day he said to me, he was like, I wanted you on this team because you snowboard like you. There's nobody else in the world that snowboards like you. And so those early days were just like fueled by this like acceptance of we could be ourselves. Like we could really just be who we were. Because Tyler was Tyler. There was nobody else like Tyler. There's people that came along that are sort of like Tyler now, but at that time there was no Tylers. There was no me's, I guess. There was no, it was Tyler, myself, and Seth and Jason. You know, there was the four of us. And it was just kind of fueled by that, like we can just be who we want to be and do what we want to do. And we don't have to really follow any rules. And I look back at those days and I just really wish that I could have seen Jason's vision for what it was, because even I had to push back on it because we were getting so much pressure from other sponsors to be a part of the big videos and be a part of the big magazines and run ads in Transworld and all these other places. And Jason was like, no, let's be in control of our media. Let's be in control of what our company is. Let's not give that control to other people. And he had those stickers that were like complete creative control and that sort of stuff. And it's like, God, I wish I could go back to a couple meetings and be like, I know what you're saying. It was just too far. He saw what was coming, but he was just too far advanced to that. We couldn't see it. We couldn't get there. And we had so much pressure from other people and we were just pulled in different directions, you know?
Well, it's kind of a theme for you, especially like the snowboard realms is so fucking early in streaming content. Like what resolution were you uploading in? Like 720p or something?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, I mean, at the start, it was fucking cell phone footage. Like because I started it. So yeah, Oakley had given me like a Nokia camera or something like that. They were doing like a small web series with people. And so a lot of it was filmed on just that or a VX2000,
Yeah, VX2000. The Sony with the
I had the VX2000.
Such a rad
which
camera.
I bought in like 2003 to film with Love Hate.
It's a sick camera.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I filmed with one of those. God, best footage ever.
My mom still has it, which is cool.
You still have a VX?
Yeah, my mom has it.
Oh my God.
I remember when I moved
I'd
around
like to
sometime, I I dropped off like one of those Century Optics, like 0.3 fisheyes at Value Village.
No,
I wonder
you did not.
I wonder who got that.
A death lens
It's like,
at
yeah,
Value
like the holy
Village.
grail of lenses. And I just was like, it was in a pink fanny pack and I just threw it at the fucking Value Village.
I would be remiss not to thank you publicly that you offered to me the Snowboard Realms YouTube account. And you gave me the passwords and signed it over to me for years. I didn't even use it.
Didn't touch it.
I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was meant to go back to you.
Yeah.
Like it was, it just,
Well, because
that was the
around
thing.
COVID, we started doing videos again.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the shit that I did with snowboarding, and it's sort of the same thing that I do now with the shop. Is
And
like
it's
make a lot
fun
of
as
videos.
fuck. I
Yeah.
can see you having fun doing it. It's dope.
You know, the snowboard realms just really kept me engaged, and it kept me really interested in an industry that I love snowboarding, but the industry side of it didn't really interest me. The filming for video parts didn't really interest me. That like what you were talking about, like going on trips with people you don't know, like didn't interest me. For years, I literally traveled with Joel Fraser, myself, and like I hired like my friends to come film, or we met up with Sebi and we snowboarded with people we love. And that was, thankfully, like the Snowboard Realms allowed that. Like we were getting enough views and I was still winning contests and shit like that. So it's like, you can't, for the amount of money I was getting paid, like people couldn't ask very much from me. You know, it's like, if they're like, you know, you need to really go win the X Games, I'd be like, well, you know, those guys are getting paid 200 times what I get paid. So fuck off, you know, like,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I had those offers in the early days, and like I chose to stay with the brands I did because, you know, I thought that it was something different, like just a more of a punk rock ethos, I guess.
Yeah.
Which was probably a terrible idea.
I was just looking
hindsight.
at, so the YouTube, if you click on the little like tutorial videos, like, oh, you're a YouTube creator, watch this video. This will help you. Yesterday, the one that I watched, I'm watching it going, none of this shit is for me. Like, I hate influencing. I hate influencers. I hate what you have to do to be good at YouTube. And then it said, also, do you have a podcast? You can just put it on here with a couple of clicks. And I was like, oh shit. So I clicked on it. I put up all the old episodes went up yesterday, 250 episodes or something.
Crazy.
Yours got flagged because I put up 138. When you talk about the 138 crew, I put up a clip, like it's 7 seconds of the Misfits, and that got flagged. Nice. They're good at flagging. They know what's up.
I mean, the back of the day, it was kind of the Wild West.
It was the
internet,
Wild West.
Right? Like
you could put
kind
up
of do whatever you wanted.
Anything.
I mean, for the most part, I used music from people I knew and music that I had the rights to. Like
smart. That's a
Saddle
smart way
Creek
to do it.
guys signed off on shit. Ben let me use his stuff whenever I needed to. Just, you know.
That's rad.
Lucky to have a lot of people that make really great music in my life. So
totally.
Yeah.
Such a creative venture, like so early on. And like I said, like it was too far ahead of its time, actually.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like that's, if sponsors knew now, if that existed right now for someone to buy, a guy who's riding at the level you were riding at, being in the videos you were able to be in, and had Snowboard Realms, like they would be like, this guy's the complete package. Like this is our next dude.
If you think about it, like if that
Now.
continued and it scaled and it just stayed doing what it was doing, like it would be making a shit ton of money. It would be, it was worth a lot of money. It was worth a lot. And what I charged like my company's like $200 to be a part of it. So I could buy like a camera, you know what I mean? Like
that's
again,
unbelievable.
what I was getting paid, I never made a lot of decisions based on money, but it's like, you know, you look back at it and you're like, oh man, there was a lot of value there that, you know, it could be really valuable now, but whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Well, and it was really valuable then, but it was undervalued. That was the thing. Was that you were getting engagements with your videos that if people had them now, they're an A-list.
Yeah. That was crazy.
A-list snowboard content creator.
Yeah.
You were like the first. You were one of the first.
Yeah. I mean, probably the
content
very,
creators.
very, very first was, I can't remember it. I think it was like Benedict's brother had a thing. I can't remember what it was called. And I know Mikey HK used to make like small little videos. This is pre-YouTube. Crapnito.
Crapnito.
It wasn't a series, but him and that other guy, I can't remember his name now. They were up in Whistler, but they would make like those Crapnito, like little short films, but it wasn't a series. And Benedict's brother's thing was like a contest recap. My thing was like a vlog, which vlogging wasn't a term, and it just, like I remember filming I remember coming home from Seattle and I was driving and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to make like a series, like my own snowboard videos and just post them to YouTube. And everybody's like, why are you doing it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, it makes sense to me. I'm like, the kids that are supporting us are buying our product and, buying our stuff. And I was like, and then we're charging them money to see our stuff. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I was like, and I filmed like the first thing in my bathroom, like, hey, I'm going to make this series. But it was just like, that shit didn't exist. Like there was no, I guess now you could watch 1,000,001 videos of people fucking vlogging every element of every single thing in their life. But it was like,
it was not really,
it was kind of cool. It was just,
it was very
like,
cool.
I don't know. It was just, like I said, it was fun. It was kind of a creative outlet. It just kept me really engaged and interested in something that a side of the industry that I wasn't really that interested in.
Well, I don't think, so the closest to what you are talking about right now, Austin, Sweden is putting out the kind of 20-minute mini videos every few months.
Sure.
And one of them was just raw footage, no songs, no nothing, just like this day. And then everybody's hitting the, like kind of chronological order footage from phones and filmers, which was really refreshing. But I don't think anyone's ever done, like what you had the potential to do was be an accomplished pro snowboarder, who was just showing the day-to-day grind of what it is to be an accomplished snowboarder. Here I go to the airport. All right, now I'm landing. Look at this funny food. What is this? And then shred shots. The thing I really loved about your re-edit of the Defenders of Awesome part was that you put in more bails, like maybe 30, like 3 times, because you're not afraid to show.
I think it started with some falls, didn't it?
It started with falls. There were falls in the middle, and then there were falls before the big finish. Shit me in the face.
Shit me in the face.
Right. And even the little half song starting thing that you start with, where the guy just starts ding, 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 ding. It's so dope. It just is. I wish,
wow, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then it flows so well. The thing they didn't put in the Defenders of Awesome thing was the make on the no binding grind.
Well, I didn't really make that. I mean, I stepped off of it.
Right, but it's more of a make than what they put in there.
Oh, because I think they showed the fall.
They just showed the fall. That's
honestly,
it.
I probably haven't seen that. My Defenders of Awesome part, I don't think I've ever watched it other than like at a video premiere.
Right.
Yeah, maybe once. Like I think I saw it in...
That's 13 years ago.
I saw it in...
2011 or something.
Zurich.
Oh, wow.
Because that's where I saw it for the first time and I was like, fuck. That sucks.
So I'm watching it going, this cracks open a little bit of the code. So like, whether you want to admit it or not, if you're a pro snowboarder right now and someone else has the editing capacity of your footage, you're trusting someone else.
Yeah, I think I don't know now. I'm assuming that a lot of people are like pretty close with the people making their videos, Defenders of Awesome. I think like, what's his name? Kale was really close to Dangler, and the closer you are to the filmer, like, the different part you're going to get. Cause it's just, they have more invested interest and not even invested interest, but it just, if you have a closer relation to somebody, they're going to spend more time and more thought and more everything into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I watched it with a local skateboard production on the North Shore. Mm-hmm. The kid who was doing all the cinematography, his brother always had the anchor part. Mm-hmm. Because it's his brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Who else are you going to put there?
Yeah.
Even though there were other people in it that were better. It's not.
I think the one thing I really liked about the Snowboard Realms, and now if I was to go back and like, there has been a couple of episodes that I've watched or repost to my Instagram or just stories or stuff like that. But there's a few episodes which remind me of like when I was really young, I used to make videos, and through the 90s, like when I met Scott Shaw and Dwayne and those guys, like I used to make these really long videos, which I remember Scott hated. Like Scott was like, oh, you're putting too much of this footage of us like hanging out and too much of this like kind of like B throwaway, B run, whatever footage. I don't know what you'd call it. But over 2020 Christmas or 2019 Christmas, I was in Red Deer and I found all those tapes, and I watched the original like We Are 138 video and the original like KBR Cock Blood Russian video. And, you know, I love the Cock Blood Russian video because it was just like all our best shots. But that 138 video that had us going to the diving pool and us like fucking around at the lodge and all this dumb shit, like I watched that and I was just like, man, like all that footage is so special to have in sort of one space and like just see those friendships building. And I remember posting like, there was a shot of Brett like trying to ollie a 14 set in Red Deer. And I was just so proud of like seeing what this group of like ragtag kids could put together and just see us all supporting each other in such a positive way that wasn't like competitive at all. Well, it was competitive in that if your friend did it, they wanted you to learn. So you tried to keep up to them, but it wasn't like I did this and if somebody else did it, you got bummed. It was like, it was just this like positive, like what you could achieve when a group of people kind of work towards the same thing. But seeing that footage that Scott hated now is so much more special than the actual snowboarding itself, if that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense.
It was, yeah. And I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
You're actually making me think. So the snowboard and lifestyle videos separated at Whiskey, Whiskey 1, 2, 3. And then, Bam Margera and the whole Jeff Tremaine Jackass crew just separated out the lifestyle stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to do lifestyle stuff like guys just hanging out, doing stupid stunts, doing dumb tricks. And the snowboarding stuff, just a lot of that came out of there. And it was just like hammer after hammer after hammer, which was happening before too.
Sure. And
it kind of goes cyclically where we want more relatable shit. We want more relatable content. And that's where we are. Almost everything's got some element of, touring around, getting on the chairlifts, doing all the things.
Sure.
Now.
Well, because snowboarding's so crazy now that most people can't do what any of these motherfuckers are doing. So.
Yeah. And also, in my opinion, the industry now doesn't have the gatekeeping. You're not trying to get into the Mac Dog movie. If you're on the North Face, you're in a North Face project.
Probably, yeah.
If you're on Arc'teryx, they're going to put out an Arc'teryx featurette on you. Like it's no longer like another person saying, okay, this is going to be the best video in the world, because you're watching something new every week. Mm-hmm. If you watched every snowboard video that came out that's like high-end snowboard video, you'd be watching 2 or 3 a day, every day of the winter. I
catch a couple on YouTube. I don't watch a lot of snowboarding. I mean, I watch like the Instagram clips and stuff like that.
Sure. The ones that catch your attention. What kind of thing would get your attention? Did you see the big backflip at Brighton? That was just a couple of days ago. Just Seth Hewitt filmed it, and it's just a perfect big backflip. I don't think he grabs or anything.
What did I see
so
lately?
Good.
I don't know.
You see, we can't even talk about the things that we see because
I see a lot of like crazy rail tricks. I saw something about like the top. I see the bomb hole every once in a while. Mm-hmm. I catch some of their shit.
Yeah,
it just like comes on what is it? YouTube.
Yeah,
but Instagram clips come up, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's crazy. And then I scroll on.
So keeping in the theme of you were 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, like some of the shit that you're filming back in the day, your style on the steel, like your
like handrails,
and just like cool, funky spots. Were you following someone else that was doing that, or was that just something that you were picking up on and like, okay, this could look good. This could,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it's hard for me to put it in context because I didn't watch every single video part. Like
I think in the early times of like hitting handrail stuff, for me, I mean, I'm only guessing. I think that I was hitting some of the bigger handrails like kind of towards the start, and maybe like some of the spinning stuff on and off, like just doing bigger things. I don't really know, but the one thing I will say about all that stuff is like things were so different back then. I remember like the ideas of what were possible were just so different. I remember sitting at like parties, like we used like huck dolls. You remember huck dolls?
I do.
And like, I remember being at a party and somebody had like a Jason Brown huck doll, and this is probably like 1999, 98. And I remember thinking like, because I was an off the toes spinner guy.
Yep.
And I remember being like, dude, I think you could fucking like hard way, like do a frontside 270 onto a rail into like, what would that be? Like a switchback lip. And I remember like taking the huck doll and showing Dwayne, I was like, look, you could probably like come from far enough over, go down, and like you could land with your momentum going down the rail. Like I was like, I think you could do that. And I remember Dwayne being like, nope, it's not possible. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's what it was. Like, we were like video games like SSX Tricky came out and they were doing like double cork 10s or whatever. And we were just like, imagine if you could do that for real.
Right.
Where now it's like kids have been watching that for 20 fucking years. And they're like, they're seeing it and they're like, oh yeah, it is actually possible to do a quad cab 2600 or whatever, you know, because the video game showed me that the rotation actually works. Like you're not gyrating in the wrong direction halfway through it. Like it actually works. Where, I mean, also I guess the whole airbag evolution and that sort of stuff. Like we were,
that helps.
If we tried stuff, we were trying stuff onto snow. So it's just so different. But I mean, to go back to your question is like, where did I get style from? I don't know. I don't think I had good style. I don't think had like, I mean, it's just so different to like, it's so weird to think about the past with snowboarding because I have to imagine it's probably the same for everybody else. Like not comparing myself to Jamie Lynn or not comparing myself to anybody of the icons of style, right? But if you were to ask Jamie, I could imagine Jamie just goes, that's just how I snowboarded. If you ask, you know, I'm trying to think of like somebody who had epic style, like Ranquit, you know, the early buttering stuff. It's just like, that's just how Ranquit snowboarded. It wasn't, we weren't of the era of like, we weren't in the era of like thinking about, I mean, at least I never thought about developing my style. It wasn't, I remember the first time somebody actually, my friend Brett was filming us and it was like one of the first days we were filming for Love Hate. And I think I did like a backlip pretzel and like a front board pretzel out on this little handrail with no snow around it. And I remember Brett was talking about like the style of like hands and like, you know what I mean? Like he was talking about like, as a skateboarder, he was like, you know, you don't want your hands to come way up here. You want your hands to stay down here or something like that. Yeah. And that was something that we'd never really thought about. I don't think we'd ever really thought about that kind of stuff really prior to that. And then it just, I mean, by that time we were so solidified in like our style of how we snowboarded that it wasn't even, I think, I mean, maybe I could be completely wrong. Maybe I thought about it all the fucking time, but to me, it's just, that's how I snowboarded and that's how it came out. And I have to assume that that's what happens for most everybody, unless you are, you know,
I think there's a couple of types. I think, I don't want to blow up anyone else's shit, but Blaze Rosenthal did talk about it, saying like everything that he got through repetition, determination, staying until the fucking last light, like 50 reps, trying to get it. Ooh, that one looked dumb. Ooh, that one looked dumb. I'm trying to get my hands where they're supposed to be. Like there are little tricks, like you just said about the lower hands, right? Like if you're throwing a method to throw your trailing hand back up over your head is a completely different shot than your hand anywhere else in the shot. And I've definitely thought about it because I have bad style. So that's the thing. If you have good style, then you're not going to think about it because that's just the way you ride.
If you think about like the era of when we started shooting photos and stuff like that, you just kind of had to assume that you got it. I mean, maybe you would look at the video and be like, okay, that shot looks good. But when it came to photos, you weren't looking at a digital camera. So you couldn't like review the photo until, Patterson or whoever developed the photo. So there wasn't like that. I remember, Joel would call it chimping, like there was no chimping. You didn't take the photo and immediately look at what you got.
Chimping, right? Because everyone's around like, ooh,
it was like you kind of only gauge it off of like the digi video footage. And at that time it was like, you didn't want to really watch it back too much because it
stretches the
pretty,
tape or
yeah,
something.
it was pretty fragile. And, it was like, I remember there was like some cameras that had like a review button, like you could press it and it would like rewind it to the start of that clip, but you didn't want to use the review button too much because your footage would sometimes get fucked up. So it was like, and it was fucking -20, being in Alberta. So it was like, you were pretty gentle and you just kind of were like, did I get that one? And they're like, you got that one. You're like, okay, perfect.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it was just different. It was just different times.
Yeah, that makes total sense. My daughter and I used to not fight, but we've had a 20-year conversation about auto-tune. Like I used to say, fuck, don't play auto-tune songs in the car. It like hurts my brain or something. I don't want to hear auto-tune. It just sucks. And then
you should auto-tune your fucking podcast.
Auto-tune. Private bro. It would be awesome. And put a beat behind it so everything is,
It's a billion view idea.
So then my
daughter just basically said, look, Dad, some people aren't born good singers, okay? That's not fair that they can't be singers. So there's auto-tune.
I mean, most of the singers I listen to are shitty singers, but they fucking make it work. Bob Dylan isn't a good singer.
Right, right.
Half the people I listen to are fucking terrible singers, and I love everything about it.
Right,
They've just found their own voice.
But they're professional singers, right? Like a Tom Petty he's not using auto-tune to hit the notes. He's hitting it his way. My point being, later on, my daughter just recently in the last year came back and was like, I'm kind of having a hard time at work because I know I'm better than other employees here, but we all get paid the same and it kind of fucking sucks. And I'm like, that's the auto-tune thing. You can't have anyone special if everybody is on an equal playing field on all things. If you don't have, so you guys were selected for your style, right? Like you didn't get to just like, no, you would be selected by someone. Someone would be like, we want you on the team.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Jason said. Like Jason said, I wanted you on this team because you snowboard like you. You don't snowboard like somebody else.
Was a style gatekeeper. He saw it and he was like, that's sick. Peter Line put together the Forum 8 the same way. Yeah. Whereas that's just not the way it is.
The thing is, like, if I think back, like, I mean, I emulated probably Peter Line's style the most. Like if I thought if there was anybody that I wanted to be like,
yes, but
at the same time, it's not like I couldn't tell you I didn't try to method like Peter Line.
Right.
I didn't try to poke like Peter Line. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Another
I mean, my
example.
stance was probably like an amalgam or like a blending of
I love
Jamie Lynn's style. I got bow legs.
Yep.
I don't know. Fucking. Who knows? Maybe I'm just
I like
full
it.
Of shit.
No. I think you're right. This is what it's all about. This is fun pulling apart your snowboarding. Chad Otterstrom also has said on the show that he didn't have his own style. He basically he would just mimic people's shit. Like he would pick somebody's method and then figure out how to tweak it that way.
And what's interesting is that you'd look at it and go, that's just Chad Otterstrom's style.
Right.
Otter Pop.
Otter Pop, yeah. And I would have never put that together. And then you watch, like when he did last year, he did a series of half pipe tricks that were tributes to tricks that he saw in videos that he loved.
Oh, really?
And it was so dope how he was able to match people's style.
Oh, crazy.
He's like a chameleon.
Wild.
Which is
so
super
he showed
sick.
Like where it's like an artist that doesn't show his influence, but then when you see it, you see it.
That's
what I mean? Like he showed it.
It's it, man.
Interesting.
It's so sick.
I love Otterstrom. I mean, I watched a bunch of his stuff a few years ago. He was doing parks, like summer camp stuff.
Yep.
And I loved watching his like hiking out and just riding. And I love seeing those guys still doing it. I don't know if he's still doing Academy or something like that.
Yep. He's in.
But I really enjoyed seeing what he was doing. And I was just like, fucking good on him.
Good on him. Yeah. He's one of the guys
he's
that
like
stuck with it.
In my opinion, he's, he's an early, he's a superstar,
I agree.
I don't know if he gets that kind of credit, but like he's wonderful.
From most of us. Yeah. I mean, the snowboard community now includes so many facets of things, right? There are people that are doing tutorials that have millions of followers. There are people that are doing travel vlogs that are going from resort to resort.
Snowboard Jesus or some shit like that.
There's guys like that. Hey guys, it's cool to see you out here. Yeah, like there's all facets of it, and there are people who are hiking backcountry shit on their own with a camera, documenting, making films about some unsung hero of the backcountry. It's a huge community, but it doesn't have the through line like it had 20 years ago, where everybody was seeing the same videos, same images in the magazines, and they were all on that same page, which was pissing you off. That if you want to be in the magazines, if you want to be a pro snowboarder, you need to do this. And you're like, well, I'm going to do my own thing. Love Hate was not a mainstream film.
Love Hate?
No, man. Love Hate was like, it was the very first of its kind to be like, I remember seeing it in the theater here in Vancouver at the premiere.
I remember, so the year before Love Hate, I was filming with Mac Dog. I don't know if I've ever told that story, but it was just such a fucking, it was so weird. I like, there's times where I think about this sort of stuff and just like how different things could have been, but I kind of just got thrown into this position of like filming for Mac Dog. I'd done some good stuff like the year before, had a little clip, and they were like, okay, you're filming with these guys. And that was the scenario of getting thrown into a scenario where you don't know any of these people. You're not really comfortable with them. You're definitely not on like the same pay scale. You're not like, you're just not, I just wasn't ready for it. Like I didn't have, this is where a guy like Jason, if he could have stayed around, if he would have been able to, it would have been massively valuable to a young snowboarder like myself in having a mentor like that. Somebody to help me through sort of understanding what I needed to do, how the insides of this work, of how filming works, of what what's the job, what your expectations are, or what the expectations of you are. And when I filmed with them, it was a real mind fuck. Like the dynamic was so different. Coming from the way I snowboarded, snowboarding was like an escape from life, and it was about spending time with my friends and us pushing each other. And a lot of times we did the same tricks because we were working on things and learning things at the same time. And it was just such a, like I said before, sort of that, it was amazing to see what could come out of like a group of people really working together. And then when I got thrown into that Mac Dog stuff, it was like, people weren't talking about snowboarding. People were talking about money. People weren't like, it seemed like they weren't excited about you trying things. They just really wanted you to just get the shot, get it done, be done, like move on. It was just such a different dynamic. And going from Mac Dog, which at the time was still full 16 millimeter film. And I think a few shots that I had, like that season filming with Mac Dog, I actually borrowed a camera from Kearns and was like, I'm going to take a camera and I'm going to go to Calgary and film with my friends.
Oh, wow.
So there was a handful of shots where I borrowed a VX1000 and we went to Calgary and we filmed a bunch of shots that didn't make the movie, that don't live anywhere. But I know they exist, like switch front boards down some rails, like some gap to back lips on some other rails. And, we hit a lot of stuff.
Sick.
And I spent time, and I remember Mikey asking me to be a part of the Love Hate thing was because I was already filming digitally by myself, kind of like that sort of shit. But the fucking way that people talked about love-hate was like, you can't film a snowboard video on digital. Like that's not okay. Like it was so looked down upon, which was so interesting. So to hear Mikey talk about the, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this will be okay. I understand that because all the people that we looked up to, all the people that were making what would be the best, most exciting films that we loved, or like that we grew up on. I grew up on MacDog films. By the time I got involved with it, it had changed hands. It was different. Like I said, it just wasn't my vibe. It was just weird. But we still saw those guys as like highly influential and we respected their opinions. Yeah. And when they said, you can't fucking do this, it was like, oh, fuck. And I said, years later, even being established as I was, having these people that I really respected kind of continually telling me, like, you can't do what you're doing this. It was just like, really? Like, weird. Like, I thought I could. And it just kind of planted that seed of doubt that was like really detrimental. And so it's like, good on Mikey for staying through. I mean, actually he only made 2 Burning Bridges videos. 2. So maybe he got talked out of it, just like I got talked out of just even being like, that I was valuable as a pro snowboarder, because people I valued the opinion of told me that I wasn't worthy of the position that I had, which is super interesting to kind of like dive into. And where does that come from? Does it come from jealousy that they're in a different position and they have much higher or much more responsibility because they're getting paid way more money than you are, or where does that come from? I don't know. But yeah, it was super interesting to kind of feel that like, oh, you don't belong, There's an interesting thing here too. I've had Mike Hatchett on the show. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the Mike Hatchett interview, I go, any kind of regrets, And he's like, fuck that I didn't go to digital sooner and build streaming assets. Now I'm paraphrasing me and him, but you can imagine at the time he wasn't, so he's like, this is not the future. And so he's telling anyone who will listen, you respect me? Don't fuck it up with this digital shit. Mm-hmm. We're going fucking film for life, baby. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, anyone who didn't listen to him is now the new people that are making videos for the industry, right? So I don't think that I don't know that there was jealousy there as much as maybe a bit of fear too, right? Like hey, control, like we have control over this non-digital space. Yeah. Don't fuck with us. I mean, it's interesting because when we made First Kiss, we went back to a mix of digital and 16 mil, but I think that was more out of like an aesthetic that we just wanted to kind of have like Capita's, I mean, the First Kiss video, right? Like you have to remember this is like Scott, myself, Dustin, at the time his name was Josh, but he changed it to Jasper, the filmer. Like a lot of times just sitting in my house and driving and talking about the feeling that we wanted this video to have. Rad. And like how we found, I remember I was going through playlists on my computer and found, I think it's who made the song First Kiss? It was like not Leonard Cohen, but it was it's fucking what's his name? He's got a deep voice.
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits. Yeah, it's a Tom Waits
First
song.
Kiss. Oh yeah.
So it's
got a feel to it too. It's a Tom Waits vibe.
First Kiss was a Tom Waits song that we got that idea from, and like Scott was writing a bunch of like almost like essays about just the feeling of snowboarding and how he felt like so disposable. And I remember like saying to Blue, it was about capturing like that nervous energy of like a first kiss, of like,
Sick.
Of like being in love for the first time, or like experiencing something new. Like that's what the feeling that we wanted to have from that. And so it was interesting that we used digital and fucking film at the same time. But so it's interesting to go from video or film to understanding that digital was the way, and then almost like reverting back, but making something that was like this mixture. I mean, sorry, I'm just kind of like,
no, I love
this. This is a lot of stuff that I don't really
cool.
think about a ton. So it's like, I'm
love
kind of
it
like
so much.
fucking like in and out of this little stream of thought where it's like, again, like First Kiss, the idea behind that movie had never, there wasn't a lot of snowboard videos that were like that before, you know, like,
right.
Like just like a little art flick. Now I feel like I've seen Vans movies and they have that digital video sort of like film aesthetic. And I think that's kind of the norm now, is to do that stuff. But at the time,
it's not quite the norm, but it is normal to see.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying.
I see it a lot.
Yes,
and I'm like, I can see where, you know, the influence of that Burning Bridges video in 2004, influenced us. And yeah, it was interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, people bring up love-hate quite a bit. Like, just because of it really was the snowboarders' snowboard film of that time. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't something that you could, if someone came into the shop and was like, I want to see a snowboarding film, you would not give them love-hate. It wouldn't make sense to them. You had to know what you were looking at. You had to know, like, oh yeah, these guys are landing flat on purpose, because like it was, watching Mikey's part in that, I'm be like, wow, you spent the whole year doing just that. When you think of his parts from before, like a blend of street and big jumps, and, you know, to just...
I can't remember. Sadly, I honestly can't remember. The only thing I know from that video was my part was to a Cursive song. Mm-hmm. That's all I remember.
It's cool that you got to work on it, that you were invited to join in on that project.
Yeah.
Like,
I really like Mikey. He's one of those guys where I've had a lot of really great conversations with him. And you know, it's like, it's funny going back to sort of like the thinking of, I told you, like, a lot of people made you feel not worthy of being in the position you're in. Even when I was done, I did a trip with Holden and Stussy in like 2011 or maybe early 2012. I did like a little Stussy Holden campaign with him, and Mikey and I got to spend some time together, and he said some really nice things. We spent a night on the beach, like we were just fucking chilling in this cave, and it was just him and I, and he was talking, and he was like the only person that really said to me, like what you do and who you are is like special within the snowboarding industry.
Rad.
You know, and by that time I had already kind of just been like, nah, I'm fucking done. You know, I was kind of jaded and, you know, whatever. But I like this, the place that Mikey has in like my soul of like just appreciation for who he is and what he's done and all the opportunities he's given to people is, I love him.
He's the real deal.
He's such an incredible dude.
He's the real deal. I met him the first year I did the show at Russell Winfield's place, and he was just playing music with Russ. And, you know, I really wanted to interview him, but I also didn't want to disrespect Russell and be like, oh, Mike LeBlanc is here. Like, you mind if you shove over a little and let's have Mikey do it, you know? So I've always been like, hey, we'll do one in the future. And we go back and forth all the time about doing one. Yeah. But in the meantime, every touch point with Mike is like, oh, fuck, that dude is such a solid human being. He's a nice person. He's a funny person. He's a true like snowboarder, and he had the cover of Slush, not last one, but the one before.
Ollie. He's one of the few dudes I still follow on Instagram.
Yeah,
like, you know, I just like I said, it was sort of those conversations. I met Mikey at the meeting for the filming of the Mac Dog thing when we went down to San Diego. It was like there was a handful of us. It was like JP, Jeremy, Seth, Micah, Lucas, Sean. Like there was a handful of, you know, there's a photo that I had that was like fucking crazy. It's like Jesus Christ. Like, it's like Sean and I, and he's like a little fucking kid. And I'm like, oh yeah. You kind of forget, like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, I knew I mean, I don't really know them now, but it's like, oh yeah, I know those people.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew them before they were fucking superstars, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met Mikey. I remember we went out for food that night, and I was kind of tripping, but you know, he just turned out to be one of the, I just wish I got to spend more time with him. I feel like what I see from him now is him mentoring so many of these guys. Like,
totally.
I think it's Schubert or Spencer Sherbert or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
Like he seems to be spending time with these kids that are on the come up or just find themselves in a position of spotlight, and he's lived it, and he can kind of guide them and help them through. I see like him with Rav and a lot of these guys that
That's
I think
the story I'm telling myself too. Yeah.
I think that was the thing that for me, I mean, I think that was something that Capita was really lacking. We didn't have those early days. We had Blue, but Blue wasn't around as like Blue actually gave me the worst advice that fucking fucked with my brain. The worst, like the first day I became pro, you know? And it's like, but that was the difference. Like we needed.
What was the advice? You got to tell me the advice.
Okay. So the day that he told me I was going pro for Capita, I was up at Blackcomb, and him, Jason Tyler showed up, and we were walking to his car, and he said to me, he was like, things are going to be different from this point on. He's like, people are going to know who you are. And when you show up to a jump, they're constantly going to be judging you on what you do. And he's like, you're no longer just a snowboarder. You're now TJ Schneider, pro snowboarder. So if you show up at something and you don't do something that is like to the level of what you're supposed to be, people will shit on you. And I don't blame him. It's like nothing, a passing comment.
Yeah,
you know
there's
what
nothing
I mean?
malicious there.
But it's something that's stuck in my head at the same time, where it's like that's just a piece of advice I could have done without.
Yeah, totally.
Because I would have just like naively continued
how could
being
that help
myself.
You? Yeah, how could that help you? You would want to do the opposite.
Yeah, I would just like naively continue snowboarding like myself.
Yeah.
I was 6 hours earlier.
Right. Nothing's changed, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're a pro because you're doing what you're doing.
But that was the difference between,
interesting.
like I say, where you had that morsel of kind of advice or insight that you didn't need, kind of battling with this, like, you are here because of who you are. So when you separate Jason from that situation, where we were left, or I was left with like that, you are being judged based on who you are because you're here. No longer you are who you are because you are who you are, or you're in the position of who you are because who you are, you know. And I could have used somebody like a Mikey LeBlanc to be like, no, man, you just do you stay true to who you are. And, you know, things will fucking
so
work out better.
Unfortunately, from where I stand now as a bystander who's watched it, talked with a bunch of these pros from back in the day, the community was so quick. Sorry, not the community. The industry was so quick to turn their back on last year's pro. Like, okay, that guy's not pro anymore. Well, fuck that guy. He's gone. So you don't have, as a new guy on the team, it's like, all right, fuck off, Craig Kelly. We're here with the new guy.
Scott wrote this essay, and one of the names that we were kicking around early before, like, I mean, this is like us talking about the snowboard round, or not the snowboard rounds, the Capita movie. Scott wrote an essay called like Disposable Heroes. And because he had those moments where it was like he won a contest and suddenly he was the kid, and then he blew his knee out, and then he was fucking done. And he just, you know, he's 22 years old, 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember it. I remember the title, but he just kind of wrote this, you know, free thought essay about how quickly we dispose of people. We tell them, it's almost like that fucking Moneyball. It's probably why I love the movie Moneyball, where it's like you tell a kid that he's going to be the greatest, next greatest, the best thing, and then he's not, and you just fucking shove them away, and it fucks with people. And I saw that, I mean, bad segue, but I saw that fuck with a lot of people who, you know, went from making a lot of money one year to making no money the next year because they were just, you know, they were it and then they weren't. And so I was very conscious of that. Like, and I thank Scott for, you know, cause he had those experiences. I hadn't yet. And it was interesting to see, you know, that happen to so many people. So I constantly had like the thought of like, okay, I can't just be this one, you know, I can't just be a snowboarder. I have to kind of diversify and learn a bunch of other different things. And that's why I got into doing graphics and tried to make myself like a little bit more a part of the company. And I thought I made myself a lot more a part of the companies than I did, you know, because at the time when it came time to be a part of the company, it was like, oh, there's no space for you here. And I was like, oh, fuck. So maybe I should have just, you know, taken those big contracts and made more money in 1 year than I did my entire career. And maybe I should have, you know, maybe if I would have done that, I would have had a mentor like Jake Burton, or maybe I would have had a mentor like Peter Line or somebody like that, you know, that could have
Jason
been like
Ford. You go to Solomon and you're working with Jason.
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, all in hindsight, and it's, you know, hindsight's 2020, but it's just like, it makes you think like maybe things would have been so much different. Maybe, you know, I just wish so much that I could have seen what Jason was talking about at those times and could have backed him up and, you know, brought him like kind of rounded his edges a little bit to what we were saying but understood more of what he was saying. So that I just think that things would have been fucking incredible.
Yeah. Cause
could have been really incredible.
Same for him. I would imagine. I can't speak for him, but I can imagine the idea that he kind of needed someone on his team at Capita saying like, okay, these do sound crazy. Like I agree, but they're not crazy.
Yeah.
If you think to the future, what if the future is like this? What if the future is people are dying for authenticity?
You have to remember though, like this is 2002.
Yeah.
There was no streaming. Like I remember Jason had the Pigeonhole and stuff like that, but there wasn't streaming platforms. There wasn't, like, you couldn't really watch, you know.
Yeah, we didn't know
video.
what the future was at all.
You couldn't do any of that stuff, but
yeah, photographers were still fighting with like, do I switch to digital?
Yeah, I remember that too.
Right?
Like I used to sticker Dano's slides and stuff like that. And same thing, like that fucked with a lot of things too, because you had every kid buy a digital camera and, you know, they started giving photos away, which fucks up shit. And I learned that really early. It was like, I know I did a lot of writing for magazines and I was just like, oh, don't worry about it. And people were like, no, get your fucking 20 cents a word, because if you set that precedent,
right,
now the next person doesn't get their 20 cents a word. And the person who has the job that is to shoot the photos, and my job is to shoot a $1,500 spread, you know, and I spend $1,000 to do it. Now the kid is doing it for free and I'm out of the job. You know, that's just learning about supporting.
So I just had a guy on. His name is Tyler Nickel. He was a
park guy or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a park builder?
Correct. Yeah. You know Tyler, or you know of Tyler, because he built the 2010.
I know his name.
Yeah. He built the 2010 Super Pipe at Cypress, and he was a builder at Seymour during the heyday of amazing stuff at Seymour.
Who he is. Yeah.
Well, I put a clip up last week or 2 weeks ago of him saying, you know, the real issue is money. Like you get great builders at a place, but it's not a viable career because they're not getting paid a career.
Yeah. And
then so many people have reached out and been like, it's the fucking same for every category.
Yeah.
Think about this. I've never been a fan of ski patrol. I haven't ever used them. You know what I mean? Like, had I had a neck injury and then they fucking stabilized me and hellied me out, I'd probably be in a different situation. But here I am 30 years into snowboarding out west, and I finally realized, oh shit, a ski patrol is a doctor on the snow that's ready and willing to treat a broken neck, a head that's cracked open, broken bones, in the field He's an emergency room doctor. He or she are an emergency room doctor in the field that are getting paid like a child's wage because they like to ski or snowboard. Yeah. It's fucked that if you like to do the thing, the industry's just like, hey, you know what? We'll pay you minimum wage and also you get to do the thing.
I've probably said this a million times to people, and sadly, whatever. I think that I don't know how to say this. Okay, so what you're saying is that you get to do the thing. So there's like this manipulation that happens within the snowboard industry that you are appreciative of the opportunity you have, but you should be appreciative of the opportunity you have. And there's a lot of people who, this is hard to say because I feel like I'm almost throwing people under the bus, but it's not intentional that way. But I'll say that there's a line that is said within the snowboarding industry, and I'm sure it's like photography industry, whatever, where it's like your family. And when you're family, you do it because you love it. You not because you're supposed to get paid. You know what I mean? You're like,
totally.
I'm going to tell you your family, and we're going to tell you this business is family, and you're family to us, and you're part of this, and you're really a true part of something. And for young kids, it's like, that's a huge thing. Like, you want to feel like you're a part of something. You want to be connected to something more than just through a paycheck. And in my instance, because I was a part of something, because it was a family, because it was something that was so much, or seemed to be so much bigger than snowboarding, it seemed so important to us, and we thought it was more important to other people, that we said no to these life-changing opportunities that were financially,
better.
Huge.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same thing. Like, you will constantly get paid less because you love something or you love the situation. But the only thing is, when the time comes that you think that the thing that you are a huge part of, to stay a part of it, suddenly vanishes. And you realize, oh, fuck. I've just spent 20 years as a ski patrol getting paid $8 an hour, saving people's lives. And now I'm fucking 50 and I have nothing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
it's, fuck. I don't even know how that really ties in, but that's just kind of the connection I made to that of just,
it's 100%
which is
there.
really fucked up. And it's like this weird manipulative, I don't know. It's just, maybe it's people know that that's maybe they don't know it's manipulative. Maybe they really think that they are saying something. But in my experience, it's like that sort of like line of, you're a part of something because you enjoy it, or because you're a part of something because we love you and you're a part of our family is typically like a sign of, well, we wish we could pay you more, but we're just going to make you feel like family so that you are happy, like, living at the poverty level or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. My friend and I joked about having a restaurant where it says, we treat you like family. There is one in Vancouver where it says, we treat you like family. And that would be, you sit down and then the server comes and goes, what the fuck are you doing sitting there? Get in the back and start helping fucking your family, asshole. We're all in this together, making no money whatsoever.
Yeah.
We're treating you like family. Like, what the fuck are you doing sitting down?
Yeah.
Like, family isn't treating you very nicely a lot of the time.
And it's like, I've said this a million times that I've made very few decisions in my life based on money, but it's like, the hindsight of like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, maybe I fell for some sort of manipulative tactics that kind of made me feel a lot more important than I was. One of the problems with what you're describing to me, having spoken to Jason Brown, who basically did what you did, right? From what I understand. Did Jason do the podcast?
No, he wants to, kind of. It's a lot for him. It was a lot. It was a lot. Leaving the way that he left, being iced out the way he was iced out. Leaving is like, it makes it sound like it was his choice, right? His situation at the end of his career and the end of Capita for him was so devastating that he didn't even snowboard for 20 years. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Well, I haven't snowboarded in.
Right. So
I haven't really had an interest in snowboarding.
That's what I was going to say. Like, there's something similar there. Yeah. But if you go back to the original, some of that We Are Family promise stuff, some of that with Jay, I think was from the heart and was for real.
Oh, yeah, I'm not talking about Jason. I'm not talking about, I'm not even necessarily talking about Capita. It's just,
right.
But yeah, and again, I don't think that, like you said before, it's like a lot of these things aren't malicious, and I don't think that they're intended to be malicious, but you look at it and, it's like circumstantial evidence of like, wow, maybe maybe some of you guys weren't really being as truthful as I think you were. And like, it's
yes.
like,
I know,
I've had conversations with other snowboard friends of mine, and it's like, people are like, like maybe, like I say, maybe I didn't deserve the position I was in for as long as I was. Maybe, maybe I didn't deserve any of it, but there must have been a reason that I had a pro model boot, a pro model glove, a pro model helmet, and a pro model goggle and outerwear, and, a snowboard with my name on it and everything except bindings,
Yeah.
There must have been a reason. And if it wasn't making money, I wouldn't have had a boot for 10 years,
Right.
So
it hurts me to hear you say that.
There was people making a lot of money, or there was money being made.
Right.
And fuck, man, it's a bad segue. I remember, early days of riding for sessions. Again, same thing. I got offered a fucking ridiculous contract from a company. They wanted me to be their like number one clothing guy. And they were like, we want you. This is early days. Like I had literally just won the team challenge type shit. And I was getting paid $200 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
From sessions. And, I was like, give me this much, 3-year contract, more money than I made my entire snowboard career from all my sponsors combined. And they were like, okay. And I said no, because when I was 14 years old, I might have talked about this in my fucking first podcast. I made a video for sessions and I never sent it because I was too nervous to get denied by them. Right. And I flash forward, a year or two. I can't remember the timeline, but I was talking to my former team manager and we were talking about, I'm actually like getting nervous. I feel like I'm fucking like, that company's not around anymore. I'm like nervous. I'm like, shit, should I be telling this? But he told me, he was like, we were talking and he was like, how much are you getting paid right now from them? And I was like, oh, fucking $500 a month. He's like, dude, we had like $1,500 a month budgeted for you 4 years ago per month.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, fuck. It was one of those moments of like going, oh, this is a business. People start here when they have this much and they hope that you just fall way below it.
Oh, yeah.
Where in my mind, it's like if I had $1,500 to pay you for something,
right,
I would just go, I have $1,500. I wouldn't say,
yes.
I wouldn't say I have $300 and see if you would do it for that. Like that just goes against everything totally. That my brain, that I personally go.
You know why this is because of authenticity. So the game in money, that is a game, right? When okay, we got $1,500 a month for this guy. See if he'll go for $3. Yeah.
And because I was like, oh, wow. Like they have $300 a month for me.
Exactly.
That must be what they have.
Exactly.
Like, I just always thought that people would, like I said, it's sort of falling for that. Yeah. It's falling for the family line.
Because you're part of the family.
Because again, you just want to feel a part of something. You want to feel like you're doing something special. And, you know, I should have
someone
taken
says,
that.
we care about you.
Like,
meanwhile, if you cared about me, wouldn't you be giving me the $1,500 a month just because?
And again, like I say, it's not even the money that
it's not.
That is,
It's
I don't want that to come across as like, well, I should be getting paid
No,
more.
no,
like
no,
I
no.
say, it's maybe I don't deserve any of it, but somebody was making enough money to have that in the budget for me years ago. So now the budget would be more, and I'm still getting paid less than I should have been getting paid 5 years ago. It's kind of
totally.
And again, you have all these little bits and things that kind of fall into your head, and then suddenly you're like, oh fuck. And then like for me, I don't know if we talked about this, but it was like the real catalyst to me quitting snowboarding was when I quit sessions. I'd had enough of sort of the brand chasing the ideas that other people were having success with. And I told Joel this, so it's like, I'm not talking shit. Like, this is what I said to him. He was just like, you know, we have this much money. And I was just like, I don't want to ride for this company anymore because you're chasing what's cool. You're no longer Sessions. You're Sessions that wants to be Burton Analog or whatever. Like, I don't want to be a part of a company that is chasing what they think they need to be doing. I just want people who are secure and comfortable in who they are. And I ended up saying to myself, I was like, I'm not gonna worry about it. Something will come up. And a couple of days later, just magically, Bond put out a press release. And it was like, you know, a lot of people, I know a lot of people hate like carbon credits and all that kind of stuff now. Like, everybody's like, oh, fuck the government for doing carbon credit. I was paying, the Snowboard realms were fully carbon neutral through 2006 through 2012.
Holy fuck, really?
I worked with the David Suzuki Foundation. Like, now I know like POW and like Keep Our Winters and stuff like that. Like, I was doing that shit. I understand now I should have been promoting it and talking a lot more about it, but I was a part of a thing through the David Suzuki Foundation called Play It Cool, which was like professional athletes, like kind of being advocates for sustainability and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, exactly. Shit I've never talked about, but I was doing that stuff anyway. And so when Bond started, like, I was like, this makes total sense. Like, recycled fabrics, like sustainability, like sustainable practices. This all makes sense. When I was designing boots for Deluxe, I learned about planned obsolescence from other boot companies. And I was like, oh, I don't want my boots to break down in 18 uses.
Yeah,
you know, I want, and I still have people that send me messages of my boots they're using like 10 years later, 12 years later. And I'm just like, perfect. Like, I wanted the things that we were making, very similar to what we do now, is like about long term. I want things to last and people to appreciate what they have. But that company, Bond, for a long time they owed me money, and I was just kind of like, hey guys, you owe me money. You owe me quite a bit of money. And it went from like 10,000 to 15,000 to 18,000 to 25,000 to, you know, a fucking chunk of change.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, you owe me like fucking 60 grand US. It's like, you owe me a lot of fucking money.
Holy shit.
And you know, I have a mortgage and I have bills, and I don't get paid a lot of money from every company that I ride for. I get paid a little bit. So it's important that you get that other little bit.
Totally.
And then I remember that motherfucker called me and he was like, hey man, I got great news. And I was like, oh, you're going to pay me. And he was like, oh, no. I got another job. I got a job with fucking some other brand. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, where's my fucking money? And he's like, oh yeah, you're not getting that. Oh. He's like, the company's done. Jesus. And I was just like, that was that moment of like, I was just like, wow, you said to my face 100 times, don't worry about it. We're going to pay you. Don't worry. You're fine.
Your family.
You're fine. Your family. Like, this is what we do. Like, it's okay. Oof. And then he was just like, oh yeah. That's fucking done. And I was just like, fuck you. I saw him at the last trade show I went to, and I remember they had a boxing thing And I said to him, I was talking to somebody and he was talking about the snowboard realms. I was kind of done snowboarding. And he was like, you know, at least you can say you were the first, like yada, 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 all this other shit. And he walked up and I was like, if I had known there was a boxing thing going on, I would have signed us up and I would have beat the shit out of you. Like I just would have fucking mauled him. I was so angry. And it just completely turned me off of snowboarding.
Yes,
it just completely turned me off of snowboarding.
That's what Ethan just sent me. So I've been keeping in touch with E-Stone this season. Fuck. He split from the bomb hole. He's doing his own thing. Mm-hmm. And so I keep in touch with him. I told him I was coming down here. I'm like, did you ever shoot with TJ? He's like, fucking dude rode for Tech9, bro. Mm-hmm. Like
the whole like bandana over your face.
Yeah.
I was at I don't know if we talked about this too.
Doesn't matter.
I was at a contest in Breckenridge, late 99, early 2000. I don't know what year it was. Early, whatever. I was still riding for LibTech. So fucking long time ago. I was riding for LibTech and Tech9. And I remember LibTech put out like a press release and was like, TJ might fucking win this thing.
Nice.
Like, they were like, holy fuck. It was the first contest that Danny won, like the Triple Crown that started his whole thing.
Yeah.
But during my first run, I fucking ate shit so hard. I was fucking doing like a big air to fakie into a Hawken flip. And I fucking left too early and I cased lip with my back. And I was in so much pain that I put the fucking bandana over my face. And we used to snowboard in Alberta with bandanas over our face. And I remember E-Stone was like, not E-Stone. What was the other guy? It was Ethan and I'm blanking. The other guy from Tech9.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know the other.
Oh, dude. I'm blanking on his name. Sorry.
Yeah.
And he was like, that shit's fucking hard, man, or something shit like that. And I was just like, I'm just trying to make it so people can't see me grimace. But then it was like everybody started wearing that shit over their face. But whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like we invented it, but it was like, he was like, that's the first time I've seen somebody wear the Tech9 bandana like over their face. And then I think like Represent or one of those movies came out. Nah, fuck. Whatever.
That's fun.
I'm not going to try to even take credit for that, but yeah.
No,
and then fucking Sean started doing that shit.
Yeah,
and nobody ever did it again because Sean did it.
That was it. Then it was his thing.
Yeah, it was his thing.
Because like him in a video game had that. You know what I mean? Like it became like a Sean. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was his thing. I think he still does the fucking bandana over his
I think so. Yeah, probably.
Which is a great thing if you're like doing that kind of shit in the air.
That's me. I should have a bandana for the tongue out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you didn't have that problem, then you didn't need it. But
that's so funny. Yeah, man. So Tech9 would have been sick as fuck. Those guys were dope. Yeah. I mean, it would have been, this is a guess, but it would have been maybe a toss-up because you've got Ethan who's badass and legit and fun to hang out with, but then you also have the money dynamics of Tech9, which they were fucking scrambling, dude. Like they were just
I wasn't
trying to
really
make it
close
work.
with them. I mean, I met them a bunch of times and I never really filmed a lot with them, but
yeah,
I always had like a really good relationship with George Kleckner. So
yeah,
as soon as Union started, it was me and Travis.
So George
who were put on the team. Like
came from Tech9?
No, George Kleckner was with Drake.
With Drake.
So same thing in maybe 90. I don't know what year Drake started. 97, 98. I sent a video to Drake. Early days.
They were badass when they first came out. Yeah.
And he responded really quite quickly and was like, it must have been 98, 99. And he was just like, again, it was probably just blowing smoke up my ass, but he was like, he's like, I don't have room on our pro team. He's like, you don't belong on like the AM team. He's like, but I don't have room on the pro team. Right. So it's like, I can't do anything. Right. But as soon as Union started, I was in Breckenridge. I was at one of those Honda session contests that now is like the US Open.
Yeah.
And he was like, we're starting a binding company. And I remember sitting in like some weird basement room with him and Travis. And it was like, you guys are the dudes. And I was like, fuck yes. I was so stoked. I was like, I love Travis. And same thing, like Travis early on asked me to be a part of the Air Blaster stuff. Like,
sick.
Right away.
Sick.
And I was just like, fuck, I love
that stuff right away was epic. It was so good. Yeah, I don't diminish you were fucking so good that people like if someone is telling you, especially like a Jay Brown, Mike LeBlanc, like that you have something special. You have something special.
Yeah,
I can still see it now when I look at those, like just the way that you ride, the confidence that you ride with is not everybody has that, man.
I don't know. It's just,
you know,
I have to imagine that it just goes back to, it's just you. Like,
sure.
Some people, I'm not a great guitar player by any means, but it's like, you know, it's just who you are. Like, I'm sure Jason doesn't go, I'm a fucking genius snowboarder, or Jamie Lynn go, I'm a genius. Like, it's just, just who you were. But
yeah.
I definitely, I don't know. I think at some point, probably all of us, like we could pretty much do whatever the fuck we wanted on a snowboard, you know, it kind of like, obviously we weren't doing quad corks because that didn't exist yet, but I'm
right.
Like if I was 16, I'm sure I'd be one of those kids who's trying all that shit too.
Now, right. Yeah, you had a special...
It's just a different time, different era.
Special
doesn't stand
style.
up, but...
Yeah. No, I remember seeing it with Natasha Zurich up at Grouse. She was just riding around, hitting the jumps and stuff. And you're like, oh, you're really good. Mm-hmm. Like, even though she wasn't really good yet, she was just... You could see that the way she rode was really good. You need... in some developed sport, they would go like, you need an awesome coach.
You know what's interesting is... Okay, going back to that same conversation with Mikey LeBlanc, we were in this cave, and I remember we were having this kind of conversation, and he was like, what did he say to me? It was like, the mindset that you have about your snowboarding, about nothing's ever good enough, like you don't see yourself as a very good snowboarder. He's like, that's what keeps you moving forward as a snowboarder. That's what keeps driving you to continue doing what you do. And I mean, I know this for a fact of who I am, and I don't really rely on a lot of past successes. It's like every day is like a new thing. And he said something along the lines of like, it's everything you've done almost like no longer exists. You kind of constantly just try to redo different things. I can't remember exactly how he put it, but it was like, that's what keeps you driven as like a snowboarder or as a person. Like you're going to do good things because you're constantly driven. You're never relying on like a past success, but that's probably fuels into why I don't really feel like, I don't feel like any of my snowboarding stuff stands up. I don't feel,
oh my God,
I don't feel like I was a good snowboarder. I don't,
wow.
I see Scott Shaw, and I know the influence that without him, I was watching, Patterson did a podcast, and
Airtime.
Yeah. And I was watching it, and, you know, he gave me a bunch of praise and stuff like that. But I remember he asked him, he was like, who's the most underrated snowboarder? And I was like, Scott Shaw. And he was like, Scotty Shaw. And I was like, well, fucking, like, I know all this. And it's like, if you don't have Scott Shaw, you don't have Dustin Craven, or maybe you do a little bit with Hardingham being around, but it's like, you don't have a lot of the backcountry stuff from some of those guys, because Scott was taking him out there and doing that shit. And, you know, like, I see Scott and I see videos of him, and I'm just like, fuck, dude, that stuff stands up. I don't see anything I've ever done as like something that,
wow,
like when, like doing this kind of shit, it gives me more anxiety about anything, because if there's going to be a shot of me, like, you're like, oh, this is a fucking thing, and here's it's like, I look at him like, God, fuck off. Like, fuck, like, this is fucking terrible. I'm not saying that to be like, have somebody be like, oh no, man, you were fucking great, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's genuinely like, I don't really look back at snowboarding, and I don't think I was that good. I think I was pretty fucking lucky to have the career that I had. But I just had a few moments that just fucking magically lived for a few years and made me enough money to eventually be able to do this.
Yeah, you were one of the new up and coming kids with good style who was doing it because you authentically loved it. And so as a business owner, someone would see that and go, ooh, that's good for our team. Then they go, well, how much is he worth? And how much does he want? Team manager comes back, $300 a month. They're like, this guy's our guy for life. Your family. This is our
Your
guy.
family. Hey, I need a job. Oh, what?
Yeah, totally.
Oh shit. I thought I had a future here. I don't? Okay. Fuck.
Yeah, that was what Ethan's question was what was the company that did him in? And it was Bond that did you dirty.
Yeah, it was Bond. Yeah. And I mean, the way it ended with Capita was really upsetting. That transition period from 2010, where things were I was still pro snowboarder, to I made an episode of like season 4, episode 1 of the Snowboard Realms. It was like Mount Baker. I remember putting like Wish You Were Here.
Opening day?
Because it was fucking incredible. Yeah, early November, November 12th.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So sick.
And that was my last day as a pro snowboarder because I had actually applied to a job and got it working for C3 or whatever. Not C3, No Limits.
Oh, No Limits.
Yeah. They needed like Bond had kind of fucked me over and done that stuff. And I was just kind of like, fuck man, like without that money and without this and without that, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bills. I don't know if I'm going to be able to maintain
I need a fucking job
like
right
I feel
now.
like I need to get a job.
Yeah.
And there was this period of I thought that, like I said, with Capita, I thought that what I meant to that brand, I thought it meant more. Like I was part owner of the company. There was some things like early days we were told because we weren't getting paid, we were going to be given shares and portion of the company. That never happened. You know what I mean? Like little things of like, oh fuck, I should have seen that. And then when we ended up getting some of Jason's shares and, there was a day when I got called and got asked to buy my shares back. And I was just kind of like, it was under some false pretenses. Why I know that was because what I was told in this conversation wasn't what I was told in this conversation from a guy who had been called just before me. And the story changed. And I was like, that's interesting. Like what you're telling me, the reason why isn't what he just told me. You're using him as like this cover up, whatever. You know what I mean? False pretenses. And
totally.
For me, I really just said like, I was just kind of like, I get it. If you don't want me here, fine. Like, that's fine. Like my thing is like, kind of now it's been more like cut. If you don't want me, cool. And I remember talking to Kathy. So Kathy, things just really fell apart. I went from having all this freedom and like making pretty decent money to making nothing and having a 9-to-5 job like this. And ultimately having everything I thought I was building towards. Like I really truly believed that I would be a part of Capita for the rest of my life. And so not because I thought I was so important, but I just thought I was a part of
that's
something.
How it was
Again,
built.
Like I said,
that's how it was built.
It was, we thought we were a part of something that was so much more than what it was, I guess. Like we wanted to be really, like we wanted it. It was so special to us and we thought it was so special to other people. And I thought, like, I have a fucking tattoo of that brand. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, and I remember having this conversation with Kathy and we broke up right around the same time. And she was like, you know, I should have talked to you about this and I should have talked to you about the things that were happening. And like, we could have worked things out and things could have been so much better. And I was just like, you know what? It's just like everything I thought was happening, just my whole world like crumbled. Even though I prepared myself for, like I say, where a lot of kids, I saw them making a lot of money and then get cut and fucking be fucked. Even though I prepared myself as much as I could for that and I was fine because I got another job and I knew I knew I had the ability to do something different. It felt like everything and everyone I believed in just fucking abandoned ship. Oof. And I was just like, I was reeling from it. I didn't know what to do. I was like, this thing that I thought I was a part of and such an important part of, I just was told, oh, you're actually not that important. We don't have the space for you here that you thought you were going to have for 10 years. Oof. And you know how you're a part of this company and you are a part owner. Oh, well, you're not, like, you're actually not really a part owner. Like, what you have isn't really valuable. So you might as well just sell it back to me because, you know, just cause. Yeah. And it's like, I was just kind of like, oh, like, again, I was just kind of like, okay, you know, fuck it. And that's why as soon as the idea of this kind of happened, I was just like, fuck it. I'm out, man.
So if you're
I love fucking snowboarding. Yeah. I loved snowboarding.
If you're Mikey LeBlanc in the cave and you had the wherewithal to say, don't let them do this to you. You know what I mean? Like, if he would have had that moment to say, the thing that you're doing is fucking special, and the people that are paying you to do it see that.
Yeah.
Don't let them just fucking cut the ties and let you go. Like, you know, fight for it. But
it's really tough.
It's different.
What's really tough about it is that, I mean, I don't dwell too much on it, but there's times where people who are really close to me or still within the industry are like, you got fucked. Like, you, like, it just wasn't an honest transaction. And I mean, honestly, I told Blue this. We had like there's no bad blood really between Blue and I. I see him every once in a while. We went to a hockey game, you know, and we'll talk about snowboarding and I'll be like, what's happening? And we talk about business and, you know, we talk about some good things. And I do have a lot of love and I appreciate the opportunities, but there was just, like I said, in this conversation, I told him, I was like, you know, we haven't been friends for a long time. And it's just like the things you said to me and then the actions that happened were completely different. And it was just like, that's why at the point where I was just like, when it came time and you told me that I wasn't a part of this anymore, it was like, okay, I'm not a part of this. And then like, again, I think I started this whole thing with saying, like, if you look back at First Kiss, which again was such an important thing, like those conversations were like Blue and I being like, should we do this? Do you want to make the movie? I was like, no, but I have a guy who can make the movie. And I have the original drawings of like what the box design looked like.
Sick.
And like the name and a lot of that like art direction and feel, and fucking so much of that movie was filmed by my hands. Like my camera is 8 mil shots. And I remember I watched it not too long ago, not too long ago. We're talking like 5 years ago.
Sure.
And it's like, my name was written out of that movie completely.
Wow.
And does that matter? No. But 10, 12, 13 years post, I feel like there's that video has an important part in snowboarding. And I know that my name deserves to be on that film. I'm not credited as a secondary filmer. I'm not credited as, you know, any sort of like production-y, you know, any of that stuff that where your name should be.
Yeah.
And it just kind of it was just kind of like a blinking light of like, like it,
like a proxy.
I don't want to say it, but it's like,
yeah,
it's just like somebody else wrote their name into those spots where there should have been some other names.
Yeah.
You know, there should have been some other people.
It's like a proxy for other things that happened in your career where you're like, if there's this concrete evidence of like, not only did I work on this movie, it's my fucking concept.
I fucking
my
made
design.
music for
Right.
that movie. Like
Right.
I played music in that movie and there's no credit.
That's insane.
There's like, fuck, man. And again, my friends are like, you got fucked and it's not okay.
right.
And it's like,
But what do you
and
do?
you're
about
okay with
Right,
it.
Right. Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, what else am I going to do?
What
Am I
can
going
I
to
do
be
about it?
angry? Like,
Yeah.
am I going to be the guy that sues my fucking former snowboard? Like I
Yeah.
said, when I was told, fuck, man, at the worst point in my life, at the hardest point in my life, I turned to those people, and to have them like to trust and believe in them, and to believe that they really truly have you the way that they say they do. And then when the rubber hits the road, I don't know what you want to say, you look around and there's nobody there.
They're gone.
You're like, oh fuck, I fell for it.
Oh.
And you're like, fuck me, I fucking fell for it. I shouldn't have fell for it. And you fucking fell for it.
Oh, dude.
You know,
That's heavy.
It's terrible.
That's heavy. But it does explain a few things, right? It explains the sudden disappearance from the pro snowboarding career. It wasn't an injury that took you out. You didn't break your back and then you couldn't go
No,
anymore.
I like I said to Kathy, I was like, I appreciate her so much as like a person, even though we're not together. We haven't dated since. But like I said to her, she taught me so much, and she was like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I was like, I love you as a person, and seeing you happy is what makes me happy. And I was just like, but you have to understand, like, everything that I thought was happening vanished in the blink of an eye, where it was like, all the people you thought were, not all the people you thought, but everything you thought was happening just wasn't. And it was a fucking trip. But like I say, I knew that I could do something more.
Yeah.
I kind of planned for that. Making the realms and using all those little skills of like designing stuff have all translated into this of what I do now.
Yeah.
Like taking a product and redesigning it and adding something and marketing and talking to the camera and just being a marketable fucking thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But
you could see you're having fun at it. That's the thing. There's none of that pain that I'm seeing in your face right now.
Yeah, it was tough.
Remembering what was going on there.
Yeah, it was fucking tough.
This place is like you're insulated from outside control of it. Like you don't have to talk to an owner and be like, hey, can we do this? Can I do that? How about this? It looks like, did you build these displays?
Yeah, my homegirl Miko actually did like the front facing and the little whatever that stuff is called, the suede stuff on the inside. But yeah, I built those in like fucking 4 minutes.
Oh wow, yeah,
but
but the whole thing, like just the look of it, the lighting, the curation of the products that are in here, it's like this is what happens when you have a vision and you see it through to completion. This is dope. Like, so you knew you had this in you.
Well, here's the thing is the way I grew up made me like fiercely independent. And that fierce independence is what drew me, I think, to snowboarding, drew me out of hockey and put me into snowboarding. It was this escapism. It was like it was just such an independent thing. And it was, I could do it by myself and that's it. And that's why I ended up probably getting good and whatever. But like the early snowboarding stuff, like out of the realms, it just became like, it was just that independence of I'm not going to have other people do it for me. And now I run this all by myself. And it's just like a continuation of that sort of shitty childhood growing up that makes you a fiercely independent person, which makes you a good snowboarder. And then you try to be a part of something and then you realize, oh, maybe you're just like a fucking, you're just really independent and you're probably not meant to be a part of those things anyway. So fucking thanks, man. You know, I probably wasn't meant, I wasn't meant to be a part of any of that stuff.
You were the talent. You know what I mean? Like you were the talent. So you were doing...
You were the disposable hero that Scott Shaw talked about in 2004.
Unbelievable.
2005.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's actually nuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, you became the thing that exactly what all your friends were talking about.
You're watching it going, okay, you know what? We're this generation of this. I wonder what's going to happen when it's our turn to be disposable. Right.
You always just want to feel like you're a part of something that's so special.
Well, especially when you are actually genuinely and authentically a part of something that's genuinely and authentically special. Mm-hmm. Like you go back and watch those early Capita, like how tight you guys were as a crew. Yeah. Fuck, man.
I remember,
that was gnarly. Like you guys at one point were all living and making art like in the same neighborhood.
Again, it was, I wasn't. Tyler and Jason and some other guys were living together. I wasn't living there. Like they were all living.
But were
in the same
you
place.
In the community? Like, would you drop by and
I'd swing by,
splatter paint on a canvas and hang out, play music or whatever. Like just the whole.
Everybody kind of did stuff together, and it was just so different. I go back to this, and I just wish things could have been so different.
Right.
I wish there wasn't that ego pull between Jason and Blue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that would rather fail with their own ideas and succeed with somebody else's, you know?
Sure.
So like I say, that ego pull where being able to round out each other's edges to be able to fit together a little bit. But obviously it didn't work, but I just, looking back at it, it's like, fuck man, what Jason brought to that table and the possibility of what that brand could have, I mean, it's huge now. So it's what it could have become, but but what it should be, even from what it is, you know, or what it could be from what it is.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to say. It's like,
I don't even know.
It's like, how does it change? Like, there are some things in Capita that are completely anchored to those early days with you guys running the show and making great decisions. That they still use, you know, those logos. They still use that imagery. They still use
that
some
idea
of
everything. You know, the only constant is change, which was what the metaphor was. I think Rav did a board that used. So Jason always like the metaphor was meant to change constantly, right? It was like the only constant is change. That's whatever. And so the metaphor was supposed to change, and then it kind of fell into this one original sort of design.
Totally.
And on one of my boards, I used multiple different metaphors because it was like the only constant is change, kind of homage to Jason because he was gone at this point. And then I saw that Rav did one, like his pink base board. I don't know what it had on the top, but it had the metaphor. And I was talking to Scotty Stevens and I was like, dude, I don't know if he got it. I don't know if he knows. And Stevens was like, no, we took that like off of one of the old midlife boards.
We know.
And so I don't know if he actually knew. I think like, so. I like to think so.
Yeah. You can't have Capita without that. It doesn't exist. It didn't just appear and they were at the mothership and doing this shit. No, they needed to have the grassroots era that they had with you guys there, or else there is no Capita. It's all been built on that.
Here's I always keep going. Here's the thing.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
well, you know better than I do.
You look at the early days, right? You've got Jason and Kevin, and then you've got Seth, Tyler, and me, right? So you've got Kevin leaves right away and goes to Genius and kind of whatever. Like that's a fucking blow.
It's a blow.
But then you've got the four of us. And like I was saying with the early days of to fucking loop this back.
Sure.
Those early days of MacDog. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but it's like, why did I no longer have any interest in filming with those guys? I went on my first trip and I got home and no discredit to Kearns. I love Kearns too. I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah.
But he called me and he was being an agent at the same time, right?
Yeah.
He was an agent
Infamous
for a hand
management. Yeah.
And he's like, kid, you're good. He's like, you're good. He's like, you're rough around the edges kind of thing, but you got something. He's like, but the problem is these fucking sponsors you have. He's like, you can't do it. He's like, you need to quit. He's like, you can't ride for Capita. He's like, come ride for Santa Cruz. We'll put you on there. We'll get you fucking this. We'll get you that. And I was just like, again, this is me being like, I don't think you understand how important this is to me. I don't think you understand how much this being a part of this means to me. And the fact that he didn't get that, and he was like, you need to quit everything that you care about to make it. I never filmed another day with them. And I was like, oh, my knees hurt. I was not interested. I was like, I have I don't think I told Blue that. I don't think I told anybody, but I was just like, I have zero interest. And, 3 months later, Seth left and went to Santa Cruz and rode for them and did his thing with them. And I ran into Seth one more time and I was like, hey, bud. And it was like family off. You know what I mean? And I never saw him again.
Wow.
I was just like, oh. And I was just kind of like, okay,
that's strange.
This is how that goes.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, again, it's like these calls were coming in. It's like, we'll pay you a lot of fucking money. Maybe I only would have snowboarded for 2 fucking years, but I would have made more money in 2 years than I made my entire snowboard career.
Right.
But I thought that those decisions I was making then would translate into a future that, again, I don't know that the company ever saw me being a part of.
Right. Hindsight,
for that same period of
you
time.
you get to the end of it and you go like, well, they let me go, so fuck them. Like,
it wasn't a fuck them. It was just like,
when did they start? When did the dream actually end? Like, when was it not reciprocal? When was it that I was family with them, but they were already moved on?
I feel like I know the moment when the relationship really changed with Capita. And it's funny, you said it. You were like, when you were making a video with somebody else and they chose a song you didn't like. And I've always been this guy. If you talk to anybody about Camp of Champions, I was the fucking like, you guys can't pay people $4 a day to hire, like, work with these kids. I was like, I would become everybody would complain and they'd say it to me and then I would tell it to Ken. And Ken and I butt heads and they were like, fuck this guy. But I was like, I'm speaking on behalf of all of these motherfuckers.
Rad.
We, like you said, it was like, we should be appreciative of the job that we do because we get to snowboard. And it's like, no, we're working and we work this so that we can continue doing what we're doing. And so I like advocated for like, no, like we need to be able to get paid enough to be able to fucking do what we do. And I remember we were making the Capita video and Dustin was pissed and Breezy was pissed and maybe Bonus was pissed, but everybody was coming to me with, I fucking hate this song. I don't want it in my part.
Oh, wow.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't say it to Blue. And I'll fucking say anything to anybody. It's just, that's the way I work. I'm like, if you're pissing me off, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a like
authenticity guy.
Yeah. I just like, I say this to a lot of like, it's just sort of like, if there's an issue, face it, get it done, fucking move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't fucking harbor it for too long.
Yeah.
And I remember having this conversation with Blue and he was like, no, this song is going in the video. And it was like, he was dead set on these songs being in the video. And I was like, everybody fucking hates it. I was like, don't be this fucking guy. Nobody likes this. I'm like, again, thinking that this project was so close to us and so special. And it was like, that was the catalyst, the starting point of like realizing, I was like, oh, it's more about it seems to be more about you and what you want rather than listening to what the riders want, which is what this whole company is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be rider driven. It's supposed to be complete creative control over who we are as, to steal a term from James Beach, snowboarding artists. You know, Beach told me once, he's like, I'm going to continue being an artist. And I was like, oh, you like paint? And he's like, no, like a snowboarding artist. And I was like, oh, that's a fucking good term. But it was like that moment where I was like, oh, fuck. Right. Oh, it's just the same. Because it's the same shit.
To someone on the outside of that, I'm like, why? Why would Blue choose the songs? There's no reason for him to.
Exactly.
Go
to me,
balance the books or figure out the next year's cash flow or whatever the hell it is you're got to do.
It didn't make any sense to me.
Listen
at the time.
to your creatives when you're talking about a creative project.
Because the first Kiss movie was I never really think of it as like a snowboarding film. I think it was said on the thing, like a coming of age film of, something like that. But it was just like,
we got to do a watch party of it in here. And then when we roll the credits of it, we put you back in the credits.
What's interesting is same thing I have like an early cut of that video. 'Cause like sitting in with Jasper, it was when I moved to Vancouver, he was living in this little place and we lived there at the same time and he was editing the movie and, that's when I recorded little things and we put more stuff in. And we did a watching party with Lepore and we did a commentary for it.
Oh my God.
And again, never made the light of day, never lived anywhere.
It's recorded somewhere.
It's it's not anymore. Okay. It's in the garbage. Like when I went home
with you and Lepore
when I went home in 2019,
let's do it.
I threw everything away.
Oh,
I threw away all the tapes, all the shit. I was just like, again, my style is like, when I'm done with something, I'm done. And that's, I still love snowboarding. I love the feeling of it. I love it. But as much as I say there's no bad blood and there's no harbor, I think it's just like, it was something that was so special that just fucking vanished, and not necessarily because of what I wanted or, you know what I mean? It was it just fucking.
Yeah. It's like snowboarding broke up with you. You didn't break up with it.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. It was really strange. And like fucking, I think back to like the conversations I had with Kleckner and like how perfectly that relationship ended between Union and myself. It was fucking perfect. And I was just like, it should have been like that with everybody. Instead, it was like, hey, I got a new fucking job. What? Okay. Like the craziest thing about snowboarding was there's certain sponsors that you have that aren't the heart and soul of who you are. And those people who weren't my heart and soul were the ones that were like, no, you're here until forever.
Yeah.
Like Josh Walker, who did Burn helmets. He was like, oh, you're retired? He's like, no. He's like, you're a part of this as long as I'm a part of this.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, wait, what? I was like, really? And it's like, yeah, dude, yes, you're a part of this. And Drop stopped doing goggles and gloves. I had a few models with them. I don't know how many. But they called me and I was like 2 months into a 2-year contract when I fucking retired. And they were like, hey, just to let you know, like, we can't renew your contract because we're no longer doing Drop. And I was like, that's fine. I was like, I'm done. And they were like, oh, yeah, we know, but don't worry about it. We're continuing to pay you for 2 more years because you are a part of this.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, man.
Deluxe. I mean, I love those guys, but I still have products with my name attached to it on Deluxe boots, 12 years what year are we in? 2014?
2024. Yeah.
2024. Did I say 2014? 2024. There's the Rough Diamond, which is my boot concept, still lives as a kid's boot.
Amazing.
We're fucking years out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
I
like,
totally hear you, dude.
It's just so sad to me that the most important relationship within snowboarding was like a phone call that was like a misdirection and a lie.
Oof.
To tell me like I didn't have a spot there anymore.
Jesus.
And I was just like, wow. Oh, fuck.
That hurts.
Everything should have been so much. It should have been like, we love you. Like
your family.
Yeah. Your family.
Yeah.
Like really, you're actually family.
Yeah.
You know,
we couldn't have done this without you.
And they couldn't have. If Tyler and I would have went the way of, if we would have listened to the people that were calling us, Capita would have died in 2002.
Right.
Because Jason would have been gone. Tyler would have been gone. I would have been gone. Seth already left. Is Blue going to ride the snowboards? No. Like I mean, how do you say it? Like, I know that Blue sacrificed to make that company survive.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He absolutely, he put his heart and soul into that. And without Blue, Capita wouldn't have survived. And without Gumby and Johan, and again, I love those dudes.
Yeah. Without
them, the company wouldn't have survived. But also without the sacrifices that Tyler and I made, which were arguably as financial as those guys, the financial contributions that they made to that company were the financial contributions that we made to that company in losses of revenue that we would have made.
I follow you 100%. And I agree. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what snowboarders get paid now. I have no fucking clue.
Not much.
But I can't imagine. Well, actually, funny. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I'm draining on.
I love it. No, go.
I did a trick tip thing at we were in, it was a Snowboarder magazine. I did an air to fakie and maybe some fucking thing for Snowboarder magazine. This is 2010-ish, 2008. And we were having a conversation with Eddie Wall. Eddie Forum. No, was he Forum? Genius.
He was. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yep.
We were having the conversation and he was like talking about one of the kids who, you know, got cut. And he was like, yeah, he was making pretty good money. And I was just like, hold on. What's pretty good money? I was like, give me a baseline of what you think is pretty good money from one sponsor. And he was like, oh, like 150, 200,000 a year. You know, this is still early-ish. I don't know, like Jeremy, when we did that shakedown video meeting. Yeah. I remember him saying, I feel bad for you kids coming up now because there's no money in snowboarding, right? So you got Jeremy.
Yeah.
Slight generation before us. Like I'm probably like third gen,
yes.
you know,
yes.
third gen iPad.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no money in this. You got your Damian Sanders money. You got your Jeremy Jones fucking JP money. And then you got my money. And now we're fucking multiples, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is, but I was like, from one company, I was like, I should have taken those fucking contracts because I was getting paid fucking a tenth.
Yeah,
of
hundreds
of what
hundreds
he was saying
dollars.
was like decent money.
Right. And he's saying decent, okay money is.
And I was just like, holy
12 grand a month.
Holy
right,
fuck.
Right.
Like
12 grand a month.
Whoa. So it's like, you know, when like I got those calls. I got those calls that were like, we're going to pay you a lot.
You wouldn't be yourself if you hadn't made those decisions. Like, hey, I'm the kind of person who sticks with family and offer me as much as you want. It doesn't matter. But also these guys are going to potentially build up, make that kind of money. And then they're going to be like, thank you to our family and pay out, something like that. But it's like, you wouldn't be yourself if you were like, I would have taken those contracts. You would have been a different dude.
Well, sometimes I think about that. It's like I say with,
you wouldn't own the shop.
Maybe,
Or maybe you would.
Okay. So you have one way of looking at it. Maybe I didn't deserve what I got. I know there's a lot of snow.
Yeah. That's
no.
insane.
So here,
Yeah.
hear me out.
Yes.
There's snowboarders that have told me you don't deserve what you have. You don't deserve the position you're in. Okay. So number one.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one, there's that position. I don't deserve what I have. Okay.
Sure.
Fair enough. Number two, you stayed with this core snowboarding thing. You were a core snowboarder and you made money and you had this 10 or 12 year career. I don't know what it was. Right. And like by all accounts, maybe I didn't have the best video parts or whatever, but I still won contests every year. Everywhere I went, if I wanted to win a contest, I pretty much won I won money at almost every contest I went to.
That's
Do you know what I mean?
awesome.
Like, so it's like,
yeah.
okay, so at some point there's some sort of credibility or something there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if I hypothetically went to ride for fucking Burton or whatever for $200,000 a year, maybe my career only would have lasted those 3 years. Maybe I would have been a flash in the pan. Maybe I would have, like so many people are.
Absolutely.
Maybe I would have thrived in that. Maybe I would have had that mentorship that I needed. Maybe I would have become something totally different. There's a lot of maybes there, right? Like, so it's just
totally.
like you say, it's like, there's these small little decisions, and I'm not angry about the decisions I made because I know that I still make those kind of decisions now. Money isn't really a determining factor for a lot of the things.
Okay, but
that
here's one thing I'll say, just as a person that cares a lot about snowboarding. I just came here from snowboarding.
Mm-hmm.
There's no snow, and I'm still like up there hiking around, finding little powder slashes and jumping off dumb shit, taking pictures, hanging out with my friends, and snowboarding. Because you've already mentioned it. The best part of snowboarding is that hanging out with friends, and this, it's not even a rivalry. It's just a companionship where you're out enjoying an experience in the world that's not tied to a phone or someone else. It's just a real thing that you guys are doing.
Dude, I left Whistler and the mecca of snowboarding and where you're supposed to be to go ride with my friends again.
Sick.
Because I didn't give a fuck about any of that shit. I wanted to spend time with Scott and Dwayne and Mike, and I wanted to be a part of what they were doing, and I always wanted everybody to be a part of what I was doing.
Sick.
Because that's just the way we fucking were.
So here's what I would propose to you. Now, maybe I'll take it away from you personally, and we'll just hypothetically talk about Jason Brown, right? What is it worth, monetarily or otherwise, to lose snowboarding, to leave snowboarding, and then it doesn't matter about the money. What about the fact that he doesn't go snowboarding for 20 years after he leaves the company thing? Like, what's that worth?
Like I say, I don't go
that
snowboarding.
worth?
I don't
Right.
snowboard anymore.
So that's
people are shocked that I don't go snowboarding. And,
I'm doing the bait and switch here and saying like it's more than money that this episode and this thing, this trauma took from you. I mean, I don't want to use
it was just replaced by other things. Like
right.
I always say it's like skateboarding. I mean, hockey was replaced by skateboarding, and skateboarding was replaced by snowboarding, and snowboarding was replaced by motorcycles, and ultimately like photography and art and writing. And now even motorcycles are replaced by like what I do now. And it's like, again, maybe that's to that Mikey LeBlanc thing, is that we're never really satisfied. We're constantly moving forward. We're constantly evolving, not changing who we are, but like it's like you're not stuck to any one specific identity. And I get worried about a lot of snowboarders. Like you see, and I mean, this isn't my decision to make, but you see a lot of people that seem like that's all they have. And it's like, what happens when you actually are 60 and you're no longer a part of this or something? It's like, it's kind of scary.
I don't know what you mean.
That's their decision.
So there is something to Like I'm still doing it. I'm 50 and I'm going dumb amounts of days.
I'm not talking about I'm more like talking about like professional snowboarders or something like that.
I think that's what it comes down to. Like a couple of people have said, like Josh Dirksen said last week, skateboarding was just for me. Mike Rankwood said it too. He's like, man, I got one skateboard sponsor. It was Independent Trucks. And I was like, I don't want the fucking hustle that I have over here with snowboarding, with brands and all this bullshit to tarnish skateboarding. I'm keeping skating for me.
You know, it's super interesting. There was a line I remember Burns said to me. He was like, the problem was that somebody with snowboarding, skateboarding and everything is you took something that people love and turned it into a business.
Yeah.
And turned it into a job.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, I go back to that thing of Jason saying, he's like, I didn't hire you to be a part of this company because I thought you could be more. I hired you because of who you are. And it was interesting because at some point it then felt like who I was or who we were wasn't enough, which is super interesting. And I remember Burns saying that it was like, it's because you took something you loved and then suddenly you had to be a business. And so you no longer were just who you are. You have to be the pro snowboarder. You have to be the fucking thing. And some days, like snowboarding for me was like, honestly, like doing, maybe sometimes it was gnarly, but like Pat Moore was one of those guys that I loved him. I thought he was such a great snowboarder. And he like just randomly, one day I was just like, where is this coming from? And I just remember being like, that kind of snowboarding is for you. Like not everybody, like you're a fucking great snowboarder. You are really good, but not everybody wants to do 1080s into fucking powder, you know? Not everybody. I mean, the other day I was saying like, I watch snowboarding and like Zeb Powell, it's like, does Zeb Powell deserve what he has? Like I've never seen a Zeb Powell video part. I've never seen him win anything other than the knuckle huck. And I felt like I was talking to a buddy of mine. He was like, totally, I understand. Like I don't know. And then I was thinking about it this morning in the shower and I was like, but you know what? Zeb Powell is attracting people to snowboarding and he's doing it in his way and he loves it. And it's like, who the fuck am I to say that Zeb Powell doesn't deserve the space that he has? Right. It's the same as that person telling me I don't deserve the space in the sport that I have.
Yeah. When we were on the chairlift at Big Bear, we were asking kids because Eric Blem wrote a book on Craig Kelly, and he's like, "Hey, do you know who Craig Kelly is?" The kid goes, "No," and then we're like, "Well, do you know any snowboarders?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, I know that one, the main guy." And we're thinking, I don't know, who's the main guy? Sean White? Yeah. He goes, Zeb Powell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
It's to like, him, just that, to an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, right now, Zeb Powell is the main guy.
Yeah. And I was just like, it was such an interesting moment for me to kind of make that connection again. Like that's this morning because a buddy of mine was in here yesterday and like I say, we talk about snowboarding. Sure. I love snowboarding and I love so many elements of it, but I was just kind of like, I don't know Zeb. I know a lot of the people he's around and stuff like that, but it's like, I was like, I kind of feel like I'm being a little harsh on him. It's just because I haven't seen it. But then all of a sudden I was like, but I'm also taking that stance of that person who fucking made me not want to be a part of snowboarding.
You nailed it. You just nailed it. Because snowboarding doesn't have anything to do with that shit. Yeah. Snowboarding is just snowboarding, but it's just a fucking
the whole
really
idea of the snowboard realms was to include people.
Yeah.
It was the anti-gatekeeping. It was you want to know what it takes to do this? Here's all the information. The number of kids that I coached at snowboard camp that became pro snowboarders. The fucking kids that were a part of the coming out thing. In that magazine.
Yeah, the pink dollar posse.
Like there was Ian. He was one of my campers years ago.
Sick.
And same thing. I was like, you're a fucking good snowboarder. And like I saw kids develop, and I was just like, man, that's what it's about. It's like the position that I took on Zeb yesterday. I was like, does he deserve the position he's in? Like, I don't know. I've never seen anything. I've seen him do this and this and this. And I'm like, does that warrant sort of the praise that he gets or the position he has? Like, I don't know. But then I was like, we pulled it up and I was like, he's got 500,000 followers or something like that. And then I was, like I said, I was thinking about it this morning. And I was just like, well, fuck yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Like he absolutely deserves it because he's turning people onto snowboarding. It's something that I'm assuming he loves.
Oh yeah.
And you know, snowboarding for me as a kid was like that escape that from a shitty home life. And if Zeb opens that lifestyle to, you know, I think he talks a lot about like bringing snowboarding to like inner city youth and maybe building that passion for somebody who doesn't have that. That's fucking life changing.
Yeah.
So fuck yeah. Like he absolutely deserves it.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
everybody who maybe doesn't have the fucking, isn't doing the quad. I love watching the quad super twists.
The 2160s.
Yeah, you know,
like,
but
holy fuck, that stuff is insane now, right?
it's crazy.
But
Anybody who says that they don't like seeing that is fucking full of shit because it's insane.
If when you see it and it works and there's like some float to it and there's no struggle and then the landing is perfect, like if you see that and go like you have something bad to say about it, there's something wrong with you, man. Like that shit is insane.
That's called projection.
Yeah. But then at the same time, I have nothing against the person that's like, that's not for me.
Yeah, totally. That's
I
the
want to
thing.
watch Soul Turns or I don't want to watch it at all. I just want to do it. The community's huge. I think that's big. And the tip of the spear in the community now isn't a point like it was during your era, where it's like where you can go, this guy got part of the year in the video of the year. And so that's the most important snowboarder right there. And he's getting paid the most.
I remember talking to Johan about that. And
I
was like, I remember saying to him, I was like, I think that there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the context of but he was like, do you not think that we are open? He's like, we have Scott Stevens and we have this person. I was like, no, I'm not like saying that, but I think that there's more room than you think. Like, I think there's
way more room.
Yeah. It doesn't all have to be fucking gnarly, you know, it can be just like encouraging people to go snowboarding. And that person, whatever, snowboard genius is probably worth more money to a brand than than half of the relevant pro snowboarders out there.
That's why it's such a controversy in the X Games last year, because they had influencers instead of, you know, Todd Richards really called them out and said like, hey, you know what, you guys are focusing on these wild like influencer guys that has nothing to do. It's completely disconnected from the competition, where these people have been training their whole lives with coaches and shit, and they're risking their lives to do this shit. You should be telling the stories of those guys, not cutting to an influencer because they've got 1.5 million followers.
Yeah,
or
it's tough. It's a tough one to kind of like.
But it's a media company, and they're going, well, we understand these eyes.
Being a part of it. Yeah. Ultimately, if you're encouraging people to be a part of something, I mean, people just love hating on people who are encouraging anybody. People who are having a good time, people fucking hate it.
They hate it.
People hate me on the internet.
Yeah, you're having a great time.
Yeah, I have a good time, and I could laugh all day, and people are like, "You're fucking this," and I'm like, "What? Are you talking to me? Because what the fuck are you like? I'm stoked on this, and you just have to tell me you hate it. Okay."
It's so wild. We live in such a weird time.
Yeah.
We live in a weird time.
I welcome all of it.
Thank you so much for being so open about your
I feel bad for you having to edit any of this.
I'm going to edit some shit out for sure. Definitely some things that I said that are irrelevant. But
yeah, it's tough. It's always tough because, I mean,
we miss you. I want to say that officially.
I don't think it does.
We miss you. I think snowboarding would love to see you just put together Snowboard Realms.
Scotty and I have talked about it. Scotty and I have talked about it. But it would
be so fun. And invite Tyler to sit in this seat.
Yeah.
Watch First Kiss and do the fucking.
I honestly, man, I just have to say, I think that I think it's just it's just a time that's passed.
A time
you
passed.
know, and
Right,
that's just
right.
it.
You don't live in nostalgia. That's
yeah. It's just,
and you have a great thing going on where you are here now.
This is what I do. I have a pretty fucking cool life.
Yeah, you do.
And I am extremely grateful to. I could feel like a lot of that could come across as very like fucking. Like I say, I feel like I'm shit talking, but it's like that's just the reality of what happened in my circumstance. And,
were you able to get better wages for people through Kenok? Because he claims he paid better than other places.
I don't know. I mean, again, I
did it move the needle?
I think, I don't remember at this point. But I remember being told I was on thin ice and like, they're going to fucking can me. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's fine.
I don't need this job.
I actually don't. Like, I was one of the few that didn't need the job, but we were also, again, your name associated with something has value. Not all opportunities are good opportunities, right?
Truth.
That's something I live by every day in here is not all opportunities are good opportunities. And sometimes your name has a lot of weight and value. And if people aren't seeing that value, it's okay to fucking go somewhere else, even though you're part of a family, even though it's something you're just simply supposed to be grateful for. It's like, there's a time where it's like, yeah, I'm grateful for it, but I also have bills to pay. I have to have a future. We talked about this in the first one where it was something about Mendenhall. Mendenhall told me when he quit M3 and went to ride for K2, he was like, nobody's going to give a fuck that I was a core snowboarder on M3. He's like, but when I retire from riding from K2, he's like, I'll have enough money to invest in something. My kid will be more secure. I'll have more of a future, Yeah. A lot of people don't really think about that. It's like, and I didn't think about it.
And they don't have the luxury to.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember being asked how much it would cost for me to ride for Ed Hardy snowboards.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, there's no amount of money. And now I'm like, dude, if those motherfuckers offered me $1 million, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Half of these fucking snowboarders I see now are riding blank snowboards that have like cryptocurrency branding on them.
Hey, I'm working on a crypto sponsor for the show because I'm like,
it's just
there's cash there.
The line is just like there's a small window.
There's a small window.
I was lucky.
Yeah.
I had
You had a long
I feel
career.
terrible for you. I had a long career.
No,
in terms of the
this
career.
Is good. I love this shit.
But as soon as you realize you're going to have to do something after this to walk out of it and be like, oh, fuck. Oh, I just dedicated my life to something that does fucking nothing for me. Yeah. I mean, I had a good time.
Yeah.
But I actually have nothing. And I'm 40 fucking years old. And I got to start over.
I've mentioned it on the show a bunch of times. I remember just asking him, like, aren't you glad you found snowboarding? He's like, glad I found the drug that I was addicted to that meant I didn't go to school and I didn't get a career and I don't have a house and I don't have all these things.
I love Ranquit. My first trip to Japan was with Ranquit. I was just in Japan last week.
Oh, sick.
And sadly, I went to one of the stores where I knew for years, like I haven't been a snowboarder now for 13 years, professional snowboarder. My first trip to Japan was in 2001, early 2002 maybe. And it was with Mike Ranquit. And we signed a poster and it was up in the stairwell of this shop for fucking years. And we went to that area because I was like, I want to see if they still have this poster.
Amazing.
Of Mike Ranquit and I that we both signed. And it was gone.
No.
And I was so bummed.
Oh, what a bummer.
But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, Mike, I just reached out to Mike because he was in Japan and he outed himself as, struggling with math. Like he's had a hard time with math.
What?
Yeah, man. It's just been in the last couple of weeks that he just was like, look, I'm cleaning up off of meth and fuck, that was a trip.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a young kid too.
Like I say,
what a challenge.
I have to look back at my snowboarding, and even with a lot of the ways things played out, with a lot of gratitude, with a lot of like fond memories with people like Blue, with an appreciation for the opportunities that they gave me. Just an understanding of like the type of life that I want to live, the giving me the freedom to sort of just be myself for as long as I have been. And ultimately, like I say, it plays into this. And I made enough money and I was smart enough with the money I made to be able to have this now from snowboarding.
Rad.
Like that's something I will never I'll never take for granted. You know, I'll never not appreciate that. But yeah, but there's still a lot of like fucking what shoulda, coulda, wouldas, what could have been, the doors that I could have opened, the doors that I closed, the doors that were closed on me. I mean, I'm sure everybody feels that. Everybody feels wrong to some point, whether it's justified or not.
I think there's a lot more of it in snowboarding than there is in, say, surfing or skateboarding, but I'm not sure.
But I don't know. I'm not a part of skateboarding or snowboarding,
right.
So I don't know.
It seems like, you know, and I've been saying this a bunch this winter, but it feels very revelatory to me that the industry that drives snowboarding is the ski industry. And they're ancient compared to us. They're hundreds of years old. You know, Mad Shoes Skis is like, they might be 400 years old as a company. And the parent company that owns that, you know, K2, has gone through all sorts of ups and downs. And they are, you know, they started as a ski company, and snowboarding was just this thing that, oh, look at these guys are all having fun at. We can build those. Let's build those. Why did they say we could build those? Not because K2 was like, hey, everybody, new thing that looks super fun to do. We're going to build ourselves a whole bunch of snowboards and go out there. They were like, we could make money making these plywood boards that these guys are buying from, you know, a few select dudes that are making them in their garage. We could add P-Tex to the bottom, put some edges on, and make them like a ski, nice and wide. They'll be better than what's out there. And by my calculation, if we have 800 units the first year and then we ramp up production to 2,000 units by year 2, this could be a lucrative part of our business. They didn't come at it from, hey, sorry, K2, call me out. If I'm wrong, if there was someone high up at K2 that was like, you know what, I'm kind of bored of skiing. What's the new next thing? This snowboarding, I tried it. Now we're going to make snowboards. I could be completely wrong here, but it seems like snowboarding got fucked over in the fact that snowboarders didn't call the shots. There was already an industry that was making the things, that was divvying out the money to people that were addicted to snowboarding.
Yeah.
And they're like,
well,
hey,
you learn from the people in front of you. So if you got fucked over, you fuck over the people.
That's
who
it.
fuck over the people
That's
who fuck
it.
over the people.
Yeah. That's how it feels like
That's
to
how
me.
it goes, maybe.
Yeah.
That's why you shouldn't just, if you treat people fairly from the start, then from the top down, nobody has to fuck over anybody.
Yeah.
And then everybody, you know,
you
does
grow
better.
I fucking love you, TJ. Thank you for doing the show again.
That's a bad one.
Thank you for doing the show. That was a lot of fun. And I really appreciate how vulnerable you were with your feelings on this.
You're going to have to edit a lot.
Nah, it'll be fine.
Ladies and gents, the time has passed. The time has passed. Got to be a better way.
Shit me in the face.
FNRad shoutouts this week to TJ Schneider and his retail store, The Shop, here in Vancouver. Be sure to check it out and give him a follow on the social media platforms that you are involved with. Special thanks to all our Patreon members. You guys allow me to live the dream and do what I do. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tag New Greens in any FNRad post and we'll get you a sample of the greatest organic green drink ever. Or tag 1910 in any FNRad post for a chance to win a 1910 hoodie. And be sure to come back next week for another episode of FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Skyview Campers and brought to you by FNRad Productions.